Counting one's chickens before they are hatched. 6. Xiao Qi Yuan's hand and mouth trembled. His tongue was tied. He stutteringly said, Sir, you have misunderstood. Huang Beiyu is my granddaughter. Her strength has improved leaps and bounds, so I just want to see how much she has improved. I don't have any intentions of hurting her. In about 1/10 of a second, after he had finished talking, a red ray of light suddenly came out from the depth of the forest again. The red ray of light was thin as a piece of hair, yet it carried the power of 10,000 soldiers. It can be said that Xiao Qi Yuan have a lot of combat experiences. He immediately tried to dodge the oncoming attack by using his speed. However, he was still unable to dodge it. Xiao Qi Yuan was hit by the red whip and was flung far away by its force. Pooh! Xiao Qi Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't even have a chance to counterattack as he curled up under the tree. It seemed as if his entire body was trembling like he was roasted by fire. When the blazing leopard saw that its summoner was being beaten so miserably, the anger from before immediately returned. It bared its teeth and let out a low growl towards the direction the whip had come from. When Xiao Qi Yuan saw the scene, he immediately tried to call the blazing leopard back into his space. However, before he even let out a sound, a red whip has come out again from the depth of the forest. The blazing leopard was flung away. After letting out a miserable shriek, it was lying on the ground whimpering. It looked like a pitiful dog, letting out woo-woo sounds. Xiao Qi Yuan couldn't help but be stunned. Generally speaking, spirit beasts are very proud. They rather die than submit. In front of powerful enemies, they wouldn't even show a trace of weakness. Even if Crown Prince Zhang Ye's purple flaming unicorn or Shi Tian's ice luan spirit bird is in front of the blazing leopard, it won't let out any trace of surrendering, unless it met a mythological beast. What more, the mythological beast must be high-ranking and powerful. Could it be that the expert spirit beast is a mythological beast? Oh God, what kind of strength is this? This kind of strength is too frightening. Xiao Qi Yuan was gradually becoming afraid. The expert probably heard him say that he will kill Huang Beiyu. Thus, the expert is using such a heavy hand when dealing with him. Xiao Qi Yuan is a cunning old fox. With just a little bit of thinking, he realized that he should quickly depart. If he doesn't, he probably won't be able to keep his life. When Huang Beiyu saw Xiao Qi Yuan's eyes shift, she knew that this old man wants to escape. It won't be that easy to leave. Just as she shouted, Xiao Qi Yuan had put his blazing leopard in his space. After that, a fire ignited around his body and rose high into the air. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Huang Beiyu stared at the direction that Xiao Qi Yuan was standing before with hate. The old fox actually escaped. He was able to escape so lightly. He used himself as a chip to escape. In exchange, he will probably suffer some heavy injuries, the cold voice said as it was getting closer. Huang Beiyu turned her head and looked at the black-clothed man that is slowly coming out of the quiet forest. His appearance made him look like he had come out from a drawing. Although he appeared indifferent, his beauty could cause the downfall of a country. If you haven't interfered, I would have killed him. Huang Beiyu coldly glanced at him. Last time, he had whipped her face. This debt, she hasn't forgotten. It won't be beneficial to you if you kill him now. By leaving him alive, he won't dare to do anything, the honorable spirit indifferently said. Huang Beiyu squinted at him. Although he had meddled in her business, what he had said made sense. You don't need to waste your energy. No matter what you do, I won't worship you as my master. The honorable spirit looked at her. Her gaze moved down her body. His gaze fell on her collar. His action and expression were very calm and indifferent. It didn't contain any indecent feeling. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched. 7. This person looks too good and appears to be too divine. Even if he doesn't wear clothes, people will still feel that he's inviolable. You don't want to know the secret of the Black Jade? I want to know, but I don't want to worship you as my teacher. In her heart, all matters are divided very clearly. It's no use to tempt her in order to achieve his goal. The two matters both have a boundary in her heart. She can't be muddle-headed where she sells her own principle in order to know the secret of the Black Jade. The honorable spirit indifferently looked at Huang Beiyu and said, "Then don't you want to save the crown prince?" Saying up to this, he raised his palm up. A small flame suddenly began burning in the middle of his palm. The punishment flame. Huang Beiyu's tranquil and calm eyes were suddenly illuminated by the flame, becoming incomparably bright. The honorable spirit looked at her appearance and slightly wrinkled his eyebrows. He abruptly put away the punishment flame, then turned around and left. "I will give you 3 days to think about it. After you come to a decision, come to the 7th tower to look for me." His cold voice, along with his black figure, disappeared into the forest. 3 days. It's the deadline for when the poison of sky-swallowing red python will flare up. After that, no matter what miracle medicine that could suppress poison in his body, the poison will definitely flow into his 5 viscera and 6 bowels, injuring his internal organs. When that time comes, even with the punishment flame, Zhang Yi might not even be able to withstand it. Huang Beiyu stood there as she quietly thought about it. She only has 3 days to think of a way to cure the poison in his body. In this world, is there no other way to cure the sky-swallowing red python's poison besides the punishment flame? She never liked the feeling of being threatened by other people. "Huang Beiyu, there's nothing wrong with agreeing with him," Yin slowly said. "Although there's nothing wrong, worshipping someone I hate as my master doesn't feel good. What's more, there's only one master that she recognizes in her heart." Yin thought about it and deviously said, "You can worship him as your master and help cure the poison inside Crown Prince Zhang Yi. Then in one fell swoop, you can also obtain the secret of the Black Jade. After that, you can just leave. You won't lose anything." After listening to Yan's words, Huang Beiyu sinisterly raised the corners of her mouth. "I was just thinking the same thing. Humph, you're still young and yet you're already so treacherous and sly." Yin coldly snorted, disdaining her behavior. "Aren't you the same?" Huang Beiyu raised her eyebrows. "In this world, how can there be many people who are upright and straightforward? As long as she doesn't hurt any good people, she won't feel guilty." Huang Beiyu slowly walked towards the testing field. The competition between the Imperial College and the Martial Arts College had already ended. Both Huang Beiyu and Princess Ingye's battles resulted in a victory. Only Luoluo lost. 2 wins and 1 loss. This is the Imperial College's most magnificent achievement over the past years. Teacher Guo felt really happy. The students from the Imperial College were also elated with happiness. When they saw Huang Beiyu walking, they quickly rushed over to her to congratulate her. Huang Beiyu's eyes swept across the people around her. The people from the Bu Jier family had already left. It seems like Luoluo had lost. Luoluo probably felt that he had lost face and was too embarrassed to stay, so he left with his people. Princess Ingyi and Zhang Yi had also left. Huang Beiyu doesn't want to get to know the people around her. Therefore, she doesn't want to stay any longer. She plans to go home and study ways where she can cure the poison. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched. 8. On the bumpy carriage ride back, Huang Beiyu sat inside while holding her hands. She is thinking about the words that Xiao Qiyuan had said before. He's right. In the Cardi continent, no matter how strong the expert, without a powerful force to rely on, one can't walk horizontally. In this world, she doesn't intend to be arrogant or oppress others. It's just that as her strength gets stronger and stronger, the enemies she will face will also be stronger. She is just one person. There will be times where she won't be able to handle everything. If she's not careful and offend a deep-rooted and formidable force, then even her strength will have a limit. Even if it's that person that Yin had talked about, it would be impossible for that person to handle everything alone. The Bu Jier family, Beiyao country's Yuan family, the mysterious Guanyao Hall that had never shown its face, and Azura City are all powerful forces. With the current strength that she has, she can't afford to even offend one of them. She slowly thought about it. Her mind has gradually formed a plan. She needs to build her own force step by step. She would need to recruit experts. In the future, if she offends a powerful force, she'll have a strong force that'll support her. Huang Beiyu always had a unique personality. She doesn't like to rely on other people. But in this era, it is different. This is an era where people devour raw meat and fowls. It's an unstable and unpeaceful era because of the power struggle between various countries. This era needs heroes, but not just an individual hero. Her mind is very meticulous and thorough. She isn't be blinded by her own arrogance. But there is a little selfish reason why she wants her own force. In this era, everyone can compete for power. So why can't she? Princess, we have arrived, the horsekeeper said respectfully as the carriage has stopped. Huang Beiyu withdrew her train of thought. Her elegant and exquisite face gradually has a resolute look. She opened the curtain and stepped down from the carriage. Originally, the horsekeeper standing on the side and swinging the horsewhip. Suddenly, when he saw the noble air around her body as she was coming out, he was scared witless. He straightened his body and looked at her in awe. He watched her until she entered Princess Zhang's residence. Only then had he let out a breath of air. He can't help but wonder how a 12-year-old girl can have such a fearful, imposing manner. The Xiao family wasn't present in Princess Zhang's residence. They were still at Lingyang College watching the competitions. Xiao Zhongqi and Xiao Yun's battle wasn't finished yet, so they won't be back for a while. The news of Huang Beiyu's extraordinary performance at the testing field where she defeated 2 of the government minister's experts haven't reached Princess Zhang's residence yet. Therefore, the people in the residence still doesn't know anything. Huang Beiyu walked through the back garden, ready to return to Flowing Clouds Pavilion. But she unexpectedly heard concubine Qin's voice from the lotus pond. You should work hard, even I'm not angry. Look at your useless appearance. You can't do anything correctly. What difference is there between Huang Beiyu, that trash, and you? Concubine Qin's voice was very sharp. She's probably thinking that everyone had gone to Lingyang College today besides a few other concubines and servants. So her words were very unrestrained. Aunt Qin, I have always done as you instructed. I'm not born with any talent and my mother isn't a young lady from a prestigious family. How can a noble son from a big family take a liking to me? The sobbing and weeping sound belonged to Xiaoling. She was probably scolded by concubine Qin for quite a long time, so she must have felt very wronged. Originally, Huang Bei, you didn't want to meddle in other people's business. That Xiaoling isn't a good thing. She'll happily let those dogs bite each other. But when concubine Qin had yelled that she's trash, it ignited a fire inside Huang Beiyu's heart. Tidying up the family manor 1. She pulled at the corner her skirt, then Huang Beiyu walked over in large strides. Right now, she was not a useless person. If you were looking to die, then come over here as you wish to. Humph. Talent. Huang Beiyu didn't have that either. Her mother hasn't been here for many years, but how come she had the ability to seduce one after the other? You are so useless. Behind the side of the Lotus Pond's rock mountains, concubine Qin pointed at Xiaoling, harshly scolding her. The maid, Pei Xiang, helplessly looked at her. The moment she raised her head, she saw Huang Beiyu walking over. There was a look of happiness on her face for a sudden. Third young miss, how come you are back so early? Pei Xiang had a good vision. She could see that Huang Beiyu was unlike how she was in the past, so she hurriedly rushed over to ask about her well-being. The competition is over, so I am naturally back. Who knew that the moment I walked into the door, I heard concubine Qin's unpleasant words. Huang Beiyu's indifferent gaze swept over concubine Qin's face. Concubine Qin was stunned. She didn't expect for Huang Beiyu to come back that early. Now, she couldn't insult and yell at Huang Beiyu like she did in the past. Her son, Xiao Zhongqi, had made a mistake and has been beaten down by the prefecture of Onguagong in all aspects. His life was in danger and needed to rely on Huang Beiyu in order to go through a couple of smooth and steady days. Concubine Qin's arrogant manner slowly vanished. She forcefully squeezed a smile on. The third young miss is quite early today. How was today's competition? I think that the third young miss is an elegant person and doesn't like the violent scenes. It's okay if you lost. She watched her face, which was quite different than the arrogant look she placed on before. If Xiao Zhongqi hadn't made a mistake and offended the people of the prefecture of Onguagong, probably this concubine Qin wouldn't give her nice faces too. Based on past experiences, if Huang Beiyu dared to open her mouth in this way, concubine Qin would have given her a slap already. Who said that I lost? How come concubine Qin wants to put a curse like that on me? Huang Beiyu's face turned serious, and the tone immediately was cold as though she was really angry. Concubine Qin was surprised. She had watched Huang Beiyu grow up since childhood and had never seen this useless person's face that gloomy. The third young miss didn't lose? Concubine Qin stated in a surprised tone. Could it be that this year, Principal Song He and the judges all have the intentions of letting this useless person win? Listening to Concubine Qin's words, "You seem to want me to lose?" Huang Beiyu held a gloomy look on. Concubine Qin, these 2 years, you have been living through days of no restrictions that you have considered everyone to be beneath you, Originally, Concubine Qin was a person with a bad attitude. She had been holding this in because of her son, but now that she heard this useless person speaking to her rudely, the anger in her heart burst out. What is the meaning of the third young Miss's words? In this prefecture, there is the Lord who will give us justice. Naturally, we are all restrained by the Lord, so when the third young miss is saying this, what position are you placing the Lord in? If she hadn't exclaimed these words, it was still okay. Now that she said this immediately led Huang Beiyu to catch information which she could use against her. Letting the Lord bring justice? Huang Beiyu sneered, her voice strict. I am seeing that this prefecture is trying to flip the sky over. The prefecture of Princess Zhang that the emperor had created. When was it time for family Zhao's people to bring justice? Concubine Qin was frightened by her icy voice that she was stunned momentarily before snapping out of her trance, looking at Huang Beiyu as though a stranger. This, Princess Zhang had passed away for many years so naturally in the prefecture. It would be the Lord who is bringing justice. Concubine Qin exclaimed boldly and confidently, not thinking in the slightest glimpse that there was something wrong. I didn't die yet. Family Zhao's people dared to criticize and give orders in the prefecture of Princess Zhang. I am seeing that if I don't tidy up the family manners today, then the reputation of Nan Yi country's royal family will obliterate completely. Tidying up the family manner too. Huang Beiyu's face immediately was filled with fogs, frightening. Concubine Qin was scared by her frightening, cold, imposing manner that she terrifyingly moved back a couple steps. From the bottom of her heart, there was a sense of chilliness that rose. However, she quickly reacted. The person who stood in front of her was a useless person. She basically had seen a ghost. How could she be that afraid of a useless person? Huang Beiyu, did you eat the wrong medicine today? Don't think that just because I have something to beg of you that you can ride on my head. You are just a... Concubine Qin's infuriated words weren't finished yet when a slap harshly slammed against her face. Pa. It was hard, and the strength was so big that it wasn't like a 12-year-old girl. Concubine Qin was smacked the point she fell and bumped against the fake mountains. She fell right into the lotus pond. Huang Beiyu walked over in large strides, and the riding suit on her body made her seem like she was a hero, not like a weak 12-year-old girl at all. Her face was gloomy and had a strong, imposing manner. The maids and servants didn't dare to breathe loudly at all. Pei Xiang was stunned, seeing that Huang Beiyu reveal her power and prestige. In her heart, she was happy. She walked over, saying, "Third young miss, don't be angry. If your body suffers from being angry, then it won't be good." The surrounding maids, seeing that Pei Xiang had changed her face so quickly, were all shocked. Normally, Concubine Qin's methods were very strong. Today, Huang Beiyu had only revealed a tiny portion of her power. It was Concubine Qin who hadn't expected this. After all, who knew that a useless person had suddenly become so brave? When Concubine Qin is ready, this Huang Beiyu would have to face the consequences. Therefore, those maids hurried over to the side of the lotus pond to save her. "Lady, be careful." Concubine Qin cried out loud as the maids pulled her up from the freezing cold lotus pond. The body seemed to be battered and exhausted. Huang Beiyu stood by the side of the lotus pond. The agile red riding suit made her pair of legs look beautiful. Standing there, she overlooked her, and the entire person at the moment seemed to have grown a bit. "Lady, Concubine Qin has such a great face. You have become the lady of the prefecture of Princess Zhang that quickly This is worthy of celebration." Huang Beiyu's face was cold and scary. Under the strong, imposing manner, Those maids didn't dare to say anything either. They all lowered their heads. Concubine Qin's teeth chattered from the freezing waters. It was unable to see the expression on her face as it was covered with mud stains. However, thinking about it, it must be amazing. You are trying to rebel again. What are you guys standing here doing? Capture this girl. Today, if I don't use some methods, then where will there be a place for us to stand in the future? Concubine Qin yelled out loud at the top of her lungs. The house servants who had surrounded the garden had heard, walking over menacingly. The couple of them were bought by Concubine Qin normally, so they followed Concubine Qin's orders. Plus, Huang Beiyu was a girl without the father and mother's love. It's fine if she suffered a little bit. Watching as the servants moved closer and closer, Pei Xiang laughed coldly in her heart. A group of people who didn't have good visions. If the third young miss was as weak and useless as before, she dared to make a move on Concubine Qin today? Today, it was obvious that the third young miss was going to show off her strength in the prefecture. She wanted to let those people understand who was the actual master in this prefecture of Princess Zhang. However, she didn't know how Huang Beiyu's strength was like. She peered at the study house servants making their way over, so she was uncertain in her heart. Third young miss, there are so many people. In the ancestral hall, the moment the third young miss made a move, she twisted the strong servant's neck. Based on that, she knew that the third young miss had some abilities. Tidying up the family manor, 3. Huang Beiyu coldly stared at them. A group of reckless people. Pei Xiang, bring old Zhang's horsewhip over. Huang Beiyu opened her mouth in an icy tone. Old Zhang was the horsekeeper that had just brought her back. Now, he was outside the door. Pei Xiang replied and immediately went out to take the horsewhip. Instantly after, she came back and handed it to her. The house servant who walked in the front was tall and powerful with buffy muscles. He viciously glared at Huang Beiyu. Third young miss, lately you have been quite rampant, pa. Huang Beiyu's cold gaze flashed past, and the horsewhip harshly slapped against. This time, she hadn't left any mercy. She thought back to how these couple of people normally depended on Concubine Qin to bully them. When they had no money, they drank alcohol and gambled, coming over to stir up troubles and stealing her possessions. The items left by Princess Zhang were mostly taken away by these couple of bastards. What could not be forgiven was that they had bullied Dong Ling, who had tried her best to protect Huang Beiyu. The hatred in her heart rose. She didn't care that there was a life standing right in front of her. This was a bastard. They should die. The whip went out, and the house servant didn't even have the ability to resist against this before he flew out by the force. The tall body harshly slammed against the ground, knocking against a couple of rocks on the rock garden. A mouthful of blood spat out, and the servant's body hadn't rolled down from the rock garden yet. Huang Beiyu's pose was rapid, and she already walked over, continuing to harshly whip him. That servant's body, at that moment, fresh blood as though flowing water gurgled out. He tragically shrieked, and the tall servant, as though a cow had hung on the rock garden, dead with blood flowing out still. The condition of his death was too horrifying and tragic, leading the maids to all scream out loud. Murder! Murder! Huang Beiyu turned her head around, and the cold eyes swept across people. The cry out in fear all stopped. Everyone tightly shut their mouths, not even daring to breathe out loud. Those house servants who wanted to come up and teach Huang Beiyu a lesson before, now each one of them was like the color of dirt. They looked at Huang Beiyu as though she was the Grim Reaper from hell. She was stern and grim, leading people to be terrified. She directly killed a person, leading everyone to be quiet. This type of firm and malicious methods simply didn't seem like something a 12-year girl would have done. That is something only the devil could have done. Huang Beiyu slowly moved. Every time she moved a step, those people all moved back a step. Uniformly, it seemed as though the moment her aura got closer to them, they will all suffer a calamity and become the person who died tragically. That strange murderous aura seemed to be walking out from the land of corpses and the blood sea. It was gloomy and terrifying. She walked over to the lotus pond, and Concubine Qin had been pulled up by the maids. At this moment, The couple of women all huddled together and trembled in fear, staring at her. Even concubine Qin, who was normally the most arrogant, didn't dare to say a word at this time. The throat gurgled as though there was something hindering it from speaking. Both of her hands trembled and her heart was scared. She stared at the whip in Huang Beiyu's hand. That fresh blood had still followed the whip, dripping down. It followed the places she had walked by, leaving long blood traces. Concubine Qin timidly moved to the back of the maids. Since birth, she had never felt this frightened and scared than ever. That house servant who had died before was the lesson learned from her mistake. It was her who had ordered him to go handle Huang Beiyu. Huang Beiyu murdered him, so does that mean she will also murder her? This girl. When did this girl become so dreadful? Huang Beiyu stood in front of them. She slightly lowered her eyes at them. The cold gaze stared at concubine Qin. Who gave you permission to come back up? Tidying up the family manor. 4. Concubine Qin was stunned. The maids all shook in fear too, seeming as though they hadn't listened to Huang Beiyu's words clearly. At one moment, they were all shocked. Go off. The shout, filled with coldness, seemed to be mixed with the deep smell of blood. Concubine Qin and a couple of maids were frightened. They didn't dare to say anything more, all jumping into the lotus pond. They soaked themselves in the icy water. Growing this big, she had never seen concubine Qin, who was that rampant and domineering, be in such a difficult situation. In her heart, she felt delighted. Third young miss, this maid can stay here to watch them. You can go back to rest. Seeing such a horrifying scene, which she killed a person, Pei Xiang had lingering fears. When she talked to Huang Beiyu, she stumbled with her words. In her heart, she secretly celebrated that she was lucky for being smart, having future sights that she had moved to the third young miss's side already. Otherwise, based on her normal style of arrogance, the person who she murdered will definitely be her. This third young miss had harsh methods, not showing mercy at all. If they should be murdered, they were murdered. She made prompt decisions. Within the imperial family and noble families of Nanny country, there were only a couple of people like the third young miss. She dared to assert that the third young miss, in the future, will definitely accomplish huge events. This insignificant prefecture of Princess Zhang can't block her. No, maybe. Even the Nanny country is not a place where she can fly her wings high. Huang Beiyu faintly stared at a couple of people's gazes on her, looking fearfully within the lotus pond. She wanted to nod her head. When Pei Xiang becomes harsh, she is well comforted. But at this time, there came a maid's voice from the garden. Who is making so many noises? They have startled concubine Shue's rest. As they said this, a couple of beautiful maids escorted concubine Shue, who just had her nap, slowly walking over. That concubine Shue didn't expect for Huang Beiyu to come back so early either. She raised her head to look at her. First, she was stunned, then shocked when she saw concubine Qin, who was soaked by the freezing water in the lotus pond. Such an arrogant concubine Qin would land herself in such a position? Then when she saw the house servant who hung on the fake mountains, whipped to death by the back of the Huang Beiyu's side, her footsteps halted. The maids by concubine Shue's side screamed, Dead person? Dead person, ah. Quickly go call for the authorities that there is someone dead in the prefecture. Pei Xiang looked towards Huang Beiyu, seeing that she coldly pursed her lips, not wanting to speak at all. Therefore, she yelled in a loud voice, What are you guys making an unnecessary racket about? Why does it matter that a couple of servants that the prefecture takes care of died? Report to which authority? Which government dares to manage this? In this time period, within every noble family's home, there were always servants they kept. The type of servants where for many generations, their lives and freedoms all belonged to the master. Since birth, they were servants/maids for all the generations coming. Unless the master had a kind heart and removed them from the list of servants. Otherwise, within the records of the government, it will portray themselves as servants for all the generations. The life and death of servants, the government is unable to manage it. They are like privately raised domestic animals. Whether life and death, it is determined by the master's decisions. The system in which the prefecture looked after servants had lasted for many generations. When Huang Beiyu first arrived, she was against this rule. Now, she still disliked this rule. When Princess Zhang was still here, she had removed everyone from the list of servants within the prefecture of Princess Zhang and returned their freedom back to them. She also gave them money, letting them work to support themselves. But ever since Princess Zhang passed away, Xiao Yuancheng and a couple of concubines felt that within the noble family, if they don't have a couple of servants, they would be losing faces. Therefore, they brought a group of servants from outside with high prices back into the prefecture, having them live behind the alley of the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Tidying up the family manor. 5. It's because she knew that was a rule like that, so when she made a move to kill off the malicious servant, she didn't show mercy at all. This servant's life was hers. If she wanted to kill him, then she could. Pei Xiang's voice rang, and the maid who was yelling out loud didn't dare to make another noise. They moved back a step, out of fright, saying in a small voice, "Lady, you see that the third young miss is holding a whip. Would that be the weapon?" Concubine Xue had already noticed the whip in Huang Beiyu's hand. That whip carried blood on it and made a long trace of blood stains on the ground. It was hard for someone to ignore this. Based on this servant was killed by Huang Beiyu? Concubine Xue's face immediately turned pale and not good-looking. In her heart, there was a sense of chilliness rising too, heading straight for the bones. Huang Beiyu looked at her and coldly smiled. Then slowly, step by step, she walked towards Concubine Xue. Concubine Xue was terrified of the aura of the bloodstains on her that she kept moving back. However, her actions were not as quick as Huang Beiyu's. After a couple of steps, Huang Beiyu was in front of her. Third young miss. What is the matter?" Concubine Xue inquired, stuttering. Her heart felt as though it was playing drums. However, Concubine Xue, who had a deep mind, naturally couldn't reveal a scared expression on her face like how Concubine Qin had done so. Although her expression was quite ugly, she still forced a smile on her face. Today's competition was quite tiring. Probably, I would need to ask Concubine Xue for some help. Huang Beiyu opened her mouth lazily, and the whip in her hand was suddenly raised. "What do you want to do?" Concubine Xue shouted out loud. On her face, she finally showed a look of horror. There was no way she couldn't be afraid. Such a bloody corpse hanging on the fake mountains, and the people by the side who held looks of respect led her to be afraid. How could she possibly not be scared? She stared at Huang Beiyu with a pale face, and Concubine Xue's heart rose and fell quickly. She needed to rely on the maid by her side in order to keep her body steady. Huang Beiyu moved her head to the side, smiling as though it was a joke. "Lady Xue, what are you afraid of?" She specially clenched the word "lady" harder when exclaiming the sentence. From Concubine Xue's ears, it felt as though a mockery and tease. "The third young miss is saying jokes. How can you address me as the lady? It's those small wenches who are not thoughtful, letting people ridicule them. This is unjustified and undeserving. The third young miss should just call me concubine." Concubine Xue wasn't like Concubine Qin, who didn't have a brain. She knew what to do best according to the situation. Concubine Xue's voice was trembling as she replied. Huang Beiyu knew that she had scared her enough, so she casually waved the whip in her hand. Then she shoved the whip into Concubine Xue's hand, pressing it on her valuable silk clothes. The fresh blood immediately died upon Concubine Xue's clothes. The bright red color contrasted against Concubine Xue's skin, making her look snow white. Concubine Xue gulped a mouthful of saliva, forcing herself to speak. "What is the third young miss doing?" "Before I had said it already. I want to ask Concubine Xue for help." Huang Beiyu faintly retorted. "Hold it." Concubine Xue deeply sighed. She harshly bit her lips, trembling while raising her hand over and touching the blood-stained whip, then immediately pulling her hand away. "Third young miss, I can't see blood." "Hold it." Huang Beiyu yelled, and the whole face was stern and strict. Concubine Xue could only slowly lift her hand, and the two hands held the whip. From the expression on her face, she was almost going to cry. Although she wasn't the wealthy daughter of an official who lived like a princess, she was still in normal people's family. After she followed Princess Zhang deliberately instructed her with the etiquettes of unmarried daughter of a noble house. Tidying up the family manor 6. After that, she married Xiao Yuancheng and became a concubine to him. She hadn't suffered any from them either. Her days weren't that bad compared to the ladies and wives. She had never seen such a bloody thing before. Don't even mention holding it in her hands. However, she was frightened by Huang Beiyu's imposing manner today. She had no choice but to hold it. Huang Beiyu moved back a step and faintly looked at concubine Qin and the others who were soaked in the lotus pond still. She slowly stated, "Trouble to the concubine Shui to help look after them. Concubine Qin doesn't know her manners and has an evil tongue. This princess is punishing her to be in the lotus pond in order to reflect over her actions. Without this princess's order, no one can let her up." Concubine Shui nodded her head. "Since the princess had ordered, naturally I will follow the orders. However, this whip dash," Huang Beiyu coldly exclaimed. "I am afraid that some people won't cry until they have seen the coffin. Without a warning, they will become undisciplined and out of order. Therefore, concubine Shui, please stand to the side of Lotus Pond holding this whip which just killed someone. Let them see in order to deepen their impressions. Otherwise, in the future days, they won't remember the lesson." Want her to hold onto the whip and stand by the Lotus Pond? Then doesn't that mean she needed to stand for a long time? Concubine Shui listened to this, and in her heart, she was terrified and angry. But now, within the prefecture, there is not a single person. Xiao Yun and Xiao Zhongqi aren't here. If she made her attitude tough, then she might land herself with the same consequences as concubine Qin. Then wouldn't be even worse? Don't worry, I will definitely follow the orders. Concubine Shui forced a smile on. Huang Beiyu nodded her head, satisfied. She turned around, slowly walking out of the garden, not looking at concubine Shui or concubine Qin. After walking a couple steps, from the back came a trembling voice. Third sister." Huang Beiyu turned her head around to see Xiao Ling with a terrified face on but forcing a smile on to look at her. "Does the elder sister have a matter?" Xiao Ling swallowed her saliva, not knowing where to place her hands. Before, when she saw Huang Beiyu murdered someone without any mercy, she was frightened to the point she didn't even dare to make a noise. Then when she slowly thought of the time she bullied her in the past, she felt even more afraid. Xiao Ling was the type of person who was afraid of the bullies, but bullied the nice ones. When concubine Qin was impressive and difficult to deal with, she was afraid of concubine Qin. She always followed concubine Qin's orders, but now that she saw that concubine Qin had suffered under the hands of Huang Beiyu, she was petrified of Huang Beiyu now. Third sister. Before, it was the elder sister who isn't thoughtful and made a lot of mistakes. The third sister normally is forgiving. Please don't argue with the elder sister over this. Huang Beiyu tilted her head, thinking about it and asking seriously, "What did the elder sister do wrong?" In Xiaoling's heart, there was some hope that rose. She thought in her heart that Huang Beiyu obviously inherited Princess Zhang's kindness and generousness, not going to argue with her. Well, actually, it's nothing big anyway. Everyone is a family. It's inevitable for bumpy roads. In the future, this elder sister won't make any more mistakes. Xiaoling hurriedly exclaimed. Huang Beiyu also slightly tilted the corner of her lips up. "Elder sister's surname is Xiao, so how are you a family with me? You just happen to live in the same prefecture as all. Plus, I'm the type of person who remembers and holds grudges a lot. Elder sister needs to be careful." Xiaoling's face turned white. She suddenly felt the whole body was icy cold. That servant's bloody corpse seemed to be in front of her eyes, rocking about. Her 2 legs were limp and almost fell down from not being able to stand straight. Huang Beiyu curled up her lips, smiling of some sorts at Xiao Ling. "What is the matter with the elder sister? You must take care of your body, ah. If you cannot be of use, then I will be very disappointed." Tidying up the family manor. 7. Xiao Ling stared at her with a pale white face. A couple of times, the lips moved but no words came out. Scared to death? These people. If she doesn't make some harsh moves and give them some looks, They will never know how powerful they can be. Young Miss. Dong Ling heard of the news and rushed over. Once she saw that Xiao Ling was blocking Huang Beiyu's path, she thought that something had happened, so she hurriedly rushed over. When she saw Xiao Ling's pale white face, she was slightly comforted. The wind is big outside. Young Miss, let's go back. As Dong Lin said this, she raised her head to look at Xiao Ling, smiling. The elder young Miss's face doesn't look that good. You should hurry back and rest as well. Once she finished, she walked over to hold onto Huang Beiyu's hand, slowly escorting her back. That Pei Xiang looked from the back for a while before coming up and following them as well. Today, the third young miss has demonstrated her powers. I see that concubine Xue and Qin are both terrified. In the future, they definitely will dare not to look down upon the third young miss. Dong Ling peered at her. When the lord and the elder young master comes back, maybe they will stir up some troubles. What are you being happy about? Towards the type of maids who betrayed their masters and acted flexibly according to the situation, Dong Ling normally didn't like them. Therefore, she talked in a rude tone. Pei Xiang knew that Dong Lin and Huang Beiyu are very close to each other, so she didn't dare to be impudent. Pei Xiang. Huang Beiyu slowly opened her mouth to ask, the things that I ordered you to do, how is it coming along? The third young miss, please don't worry about it. This maid also knows a little about it. I had followed the clues, tracking it down and gained a lot of information. Pei Xiang saw that she could make an accomplishment, so she immediately exclaimed. The money, account book, warehouse, etc. within the prefecture are all looked after by the housekeeper Zhou. In the past, housekeeper Zhou was the person appointed by Princess Zhang, but later on, he was bought by concubine Qin, so he had helped concubine Qin to look after the bills of the region of Qinghe. These couple of years, concubine Qin wasn't that stupid either. Whenever it was time to hand in the taxation of Qinghe, she will secretly store some amounts and let the housekeeper Zhou to secretly make some movements. In the future, even if people wanted to check it, they wouldn't be able to. I feel like that concubine Xue would also do that. Huang Beiyu nodded her head. Making fake accounts, she had seen a lot of this before. It was nothing new. It's just that the housekeeper Zhou had been regarded highly by Princess Zhang, and who knew that he was actually bought by concubine Qin. This was quite disappointing. However, it wasn't too surprising. All the servants that were loyal to the prefecture of Princess Zhang were all forced away. Those who were left, most of them were bought by other people. Otherwise, based on Princess Zhang's prestige when she was still alive, how could Huang Beiyu be bullied to this point? The account books are all handled by the housekeeper Zhou? Dong Ling inquired. The housekeeper Zhou takes care of it. Because concubine Xue has a detailed mind, the lord had also let her look after it. It had conveniently let her make some movements as well. Huang Beiyu faintly stated, since they had made some moves on the account books, then naturally we are unable to see anything. It's just that since concubine Xue and Qin had embezzled quite a bit, then they probably have a secret government treasury of their own. Dong Ling listened to this, scrunching his eyebrows. In regards to the money, even if we make a Lanmu card, we probably won't find anything either. Those gold and silvers, jade artifacts, antiques, and such could be hidden into the space ring, then it would be harder to find. Lanmu card. Huang Beiyu thought for a while, then suddenly smiled. The biggest money farm in Nanny country is the family of Bujier? Dong Ling laughed. Not only just the Nanny country, but the biggest money farm on the Cardi mainland is also the family of Bujier. A flash of bright and radiant light went by Huang Beiyu's eyes. If it was the family of Bujier, then she could think of some ideas. Dong Ling saw that she had a lot of confidence. She couldn't help to be curious and ask, did the young miss think of something? Tidying up the family manor. 8 ideas. Slowly thinking about it. There will be ideas. Huang Beiyu turned around to say to Pei Xiang. Pei Xiang, go look after concubine Qin. Don't worry about it, third young miss. This maid will follow your orders well. Pei Xiang excitedly exclaimed. It was her honor to be regarded highly by the third young miss. After they made Pei Xiang leave, Dong Ling was a little bit worried. Young miss, what happened today? Would it stir up a commotion? Are you scared? Dongling is scared, but the matters that the young miss had made a decision upon, Dongling will definitely support you to the end. It's just that family Zhao's power, after all, they're still so powerful. There was no way for Dongling to not worry about it. Despite how powerful young Miss's strength was, she was unable to fight against a powerful noble family. Family Xiao? Actually, I have been wanting to know how powerful the family Xiao was. However, I haven't had the chance to find out. Well, this was a great chance to find out. A lot of noble families like to hide their strengths. Many masters were all hidden and didn't like to reveal themselves. Therefore, sometimes they thought that there was only a couple of masters. If they accidentally provoke them, they probably will suffer from this. If family Xiao had also hidden some of their strengths, they will need to spend some time in order to work against them. This time, Xiao Yuancheng had escaped back. First, they will see how he will deal with this matter. It was pretty fine to investigate what was true and false about him, but by doing this, won't it be a little risky? Dongling couldn't help to be worried. Towards family Xiao, they didn't have a lot of knowledge about them. If behind Xiao Yuancheng's back, there was a master, then it will become complicated. How would you gain the tiger cubs without going into the tiger's cave? Huang Beiyu elegantly curled up the corner of her lips. If she was being sloppy, then she wouldn't be able to do anything. Her personality was pretty straightforward and enjoyed risks. Plus, saying the truth, she felt as though Xiao Yuancheng wasn't any threat to her at all. Royal Court Beiyu. The bloody corpse hung on the fake mountains and held a tragic look as though it was staring at everyone. Such a huge dead corpse was there hanging. No matter how arrogant concubine Qin was, she didn't dare to easily make a move anymore. Plus, the person looking after her was concubine Shui, who normally was against her. If she walked out from the lotus pond, this concubine Shui will definitely go over to Huang Beiyu and complain, adding details to the story. She didn't want to die, becoming like that servant. She deeply believed that if she irritated Huang Beiyu enough, then she will really be killed. During this season, the water was actually freezing. Concubine Qin was freezing to the point where she trembled, her teeth have been chattering. She let the maid surround her, but everyone was cold. Hugging together didn't help in this case. Although concubine Shui was in a better situation than her, standing by the lotus pond, she held the horsewhip in her hand which had killed someone. She was afraid and felt disgusted, not any better than her. Lady, that Huang Beiyu had left, so she can't see this anymore. How about you just throw this nuisance away? The maid by concubine Shui's side, Xia Chun, carefully inquired. They had not personally seen Huang Beiyu murder someone. The feeling of fear was naturally less than those people by concubine Qin's side. Shut up, concubine Shui coldly shouted. I have taught you guys every day. How come you guys still don't have good taste? A mouth, saying lady. Do you guys purposefully want that girl to have something to use against me? This maid knows that she is wrong, Xia Chun replied, feeling as though she was wronged. But lad, concubine, that third young miss has been even more arrogant lately. Should we let the second young miss teach her a lesson? Concubine Shui slightly peered at the servant's corpse hanging on the fake mountains. That girl was able to kill someone, so she probably has some strange methods. Tidying up the family manor. 9. No matter her strange methods, as long as we bring the Lord's father over, she can't try to be impressive anymore. Xia Chun exclaimed this with confidence. In the maid's eyes, the Lord's father was an 8-star summoner. What could Huang Beiyu, that thing, be counted as? Plus, the Lord's father adores the second young miss a lot. As long as he finds out that the second young miss's mother had suffered over here, then would he not stand up for the second young miss? When concubine Shui heard the words, she felt slightly comforted in her heart. Right, they still had the Lord's father as support. Within the family Zhao's blood, only Xiao Yun had the talent of being a summoner. Even though Yun Er's reputation wasn't good right now, but besides adoring Yun Er, who else would the Lord's father adore? Saying the truth, now concubine Shui couldn't help to wish for Huang Beiyu to die right now. Before, she had left her life because she wanted Huang Beiyu to compliment her when meeting with the Empress Dowager so that she can become the first lady within the prefecture. But ever since what happened in the prefecture of the Prime Minister, She knew that Huang Beiyu wasn't someone she was able to control. This girl was kind on the surface, but in her heart, there was no telling how evil she was. If she still left her to be, she will eventually become a problem for her. Since she can't rely on Huang Beiyu now, then what is the point of leaving her to be? With regards to the Prime Minister, as long as her Yun heir worked hard, it wasn't impossible to be able to deal with them. There was no need to look at that girl's face. Concubine Xue pondered over this, and in her heart, slowly, there was the motive to kill her. Sister Xue, who knew that you are normally a powerful person and would be frightened by that girl? Concubine Qin, who was soaked in the water, heard her conversation with her maid, sneering. Sister Qin, aren't you the same? Look at yourself. Later on, when the Lord sees this, that would be amazing. Concubine Xue sneered back. Concubine Qin harshly exclaimed, that girl, I won't let her go so easily. After all, she still had a powerful son. She was able to give Huang Beiyu a slight lesson. As she thought about this, there were loud noises from outside. The servants were chatting about, and at that moment, the noise got even louder. Xian Yuancheng's angry voice rose. Is she trying to rebel? Did she have me, her father, in her eyes anymore? As soon as Concubine Qin heard the voice, she immediately started bawling in front of her maids and wiping her tears. That was to the point where she was heartbroken and grieving. If she had an exquisite makeup on with beautiful clothes, then it would contain some amorous feelings, but her whole body was covered in mud and stains. Her hair was all scattered apart that it was frightening. Mother. Xiao Zhongqi was the first one who rushed in. When he saw the scene in the lotus pond, he felt really angry. He jumped into the lotus pond to save Concubine Qin. Lord, you need to bring me justice, ah. Once Concubine Qin got on the shore, she cried, trying to beg for help to Xiao Yuancheng. Originally, she thought that crying, Xiao Yuancheng will definitely be seething in anger and order for people to bring Huang Beiyu out to punish her. However, she had cried for a while, but only noticed that Xiao Yuancheng, although had an infuriated face on, he kept quiet. What was the matter? Mother, stop crying first. Xiao Zhongqi clenched his teeth while saying this. There was a feeling of a grievance within his tone that he was unable to explain. Qi'er, what happened? Concubine Qin was bewildered. How come the son she was most proud of was being that strange too? Xiao Zhongqi stared at the servant's corpse hanging on the fake mountains. The expression on his face was as bad-looking as it could be, as though what belonged to him had been stolen away. Tidying up the family manor, 10. Huang Beiyu had won during the competition of Lingyang College. Xiao Zhongqi stated, not willing to accept this. Concubine Qin widened her eyes. Won? That useless thing actually won during the Lingyang College's competition? She heard that the Imperial College was going against the Martial Arts Academy. The students of the Martial Arts Academy were weak? She won who? Xiao Zhongqi humphed. The government ministers Lin Wanyi, the future Jing Wangfei. Concubine Qin covered her mouth. She heard that Lin Wanyi was a powerful figure. Her strength was a match with her son, who she was proud of. There isn't any Jing Wangfei. Xiao Yuancheng suddenly exclaimed in an angry tone. Today, Jing Wang was infuriated. He said that he won't marry a woman that evil and malicious. Concubine Qin was shocked. In her heart, she felt a bit chilly. However, she thought that since Lin Wanyi can't become Jing Wangfei, it will serve some benefits to her. After all, she was born from the prefecture of the Prime Minister. She knew that her father didn't get along with Government Minister Lin as usual. If Government Minister Lin's daughter can't become the Jing Wangfei, wouldn't it be as she desired? Looks like it will be busy within the prefecture of the government minister. The corner of Concubine Qin's lips curled up into a smile. That face filled with mud and stains was really in the way. Xiao Yuancheng humphed. What is this look? You've become happy now, are you? Lord, that Huang Beiyu had won Lin Wanyi out of luck most likely. Lin Wanyi is from the prefecture of the government minister, but also doesn't get along with our prefecture. If she can't become the Jing Wangfei, shouldn't we be happy as well? Concubine Qin answered, not willing to back down. Unacknowledged woman. Xian Yuanqing yelled. What do you know? Luck? 1/2 times can be luck, but the third time? How could she have such a piece of good luck? What third time? Concubine Qin was the standard type of woman who held no brain. She blinked her eyes and looked towards her son. Qi'er, what else happened today? Xiao Zhongqi turned his head around with his eyebrows scrunched. His tone was bitter. Today, Huang Beiyu had also won against Lin Zicheng. That Lin Zicheng had gotten severe injuries now. Hiss! All the servants and maids standing by the surroundings all couldn't help but let out a cold sigh. The bloody whip in concubine Shue's hand was just taken away from Xiao Yun. Her hands were still shaking, and when she heard the words, she was stunned. Right after, she didn't even care that the person who was talking was Xiao Zhongqi. She hurriedly inquired, I heard that Lin Zicheng was about to approach the rank of a golden warrior. Did he underestimate his enemy? When she said the words, concubine Shue could hear that her heart was frantically pounding. Xiao Yun, with a low voice, replied, It's not that he underestimated his enemy. Lin Zicheng used all his strength and even used skills of his sword, but was heavily injured by that girl after she insulted him. Concubine Shue held onto her chest, letting out a moan. How is this possible? She was basically no, she is not a useless thing. Concubine Qin widened her eyes. Her gaze shifted towards the corpse on the fake mountains. She suddenly thought back to the scene where Huang Beiyu killed someone. Fresh blood was everywhere, and she was cruel and ruthless. Suddenly, she felt like darkness was in front of her eyes. She fell in Xiao Zhongqi's arms. Mother! Xiao Zhongqi yelled out loud. She hurriedly carried concubine Qin and said to Xiao Yuancheng, Father, I will go bring the mother to rest. Go. At this time, Xiao Yuancheng was very irritated. He didn't want to see concubine Qin, who was noisy and ignorant. This type of woman, only when she's in the room that there is a slight pleasure. When facing towards important matters, she was an idiot. Who dared to provoke me? One. When concubine Qin and Xiao Zhongqi both left, Xiao Yuancheng then helplessly exclaimed, How come that girl was so powerful? Xiao Yun thought back to the Seven Towers forest where grandfather personally went to give Huang Beiyu a lesson today. She had no idea how that went. Mother, was Huang Beiyu injured? Injured? Concubine Shue was confused. She thought about it, then shook her head. I see that she's pretty good. Yun what's the matter? Didn't have injuries. How is that possible? Xiao Yun didn't dare to believe this. Could it be that grandfather was afraid that the crown prince was also in Lingyang College, so he didn't make a move towards Huang Beiyu? It must be like this. After all, Huang Beiyu still had the emperor and empress dowager as support. If something happened to her, the emperor will definitely be angry. Plus, during that time, the crown prince and princess Yingyi knew that she was the one who went to find Huang Beiyu, according to grandfather's orders. If something happened to her, family Xiao won't escape from this. Humph, she got away easily. Xiao Yun bit her lips, saying, She is so arrogant today. If we don't teach her lesson, in the future she might flip the sky over. Right? Concubine Shue looked towards Xiao Yuancheng as though plotting a scheme. Today, she said that the person who is in charge of the prefecture of Princess Zhang is her. Family Zhao's people don't have permission to manage this prefecture. She didn't even place the Lord in her eyes. Xiao Yuancheng originally was raging already. Now that he heard these words, the anger was rushing up. Humph! I knew that she was a cruel and unscrupulous girl. I had raised her up to this age for no reason. Mother! All these years, she had treated her kindly. But how did she treat Mother today? Mother's body is weak. How could she endure this type of fright? Xiao Yun was even angrier from what she was saying. I'm seeing that with this matter, we need to have grandfather show his face about this. These couple of years, the Lord's father have been resting peacefully. What happened in the prefecture, it's better to probably not disturb him. Concubine Qin explained in a graceful manner. Humph! Family Zhao's people have already been bullied. How can we still submit to humiliation? Yun go find your grandfather. Ask him to come and take charge of family matters. Who dared to provoke me too? Xiao Yun heard this and was secretly happy about it. Even the father had made this decision. That Huang Beiyu's good days are coming to an end. She hurriedly called for her own maid, Xianai, to call for the Lord's father over. Humph! With a senior coming over to manage family matters, the Emperor and Empress Dowager won't be able to intervene with this. Father, Mother, you guys go back to rest. Grandfather will be here soon, Xiao Yun stated. Xiao Yuancheng nodded his head. He knew of his own father's thoughts. The prefecture of Princess Zhang was a fat piece of meat. All the years, Xiao Qi Yuan also had the thoughts of gaining some profits from this. This time, isn't it a great chance? He had been in the prefecture of Princess Zhang for many years. It's about time that he controls this place. Once she saw that Xianai went out, Pei Xiang hurriedly went to report to Lu Yunge. The Lord's father, that is not a figure to easily be provoked. Third young miss, do you want this maid to secretly let that maid Xianai be? Pei Xiang had a harsh heart and made the action of wiping one's throat. Huang Beiyu's eyes flashed over a mocking smile. She adjusted her dress. If they want to bring the Lord's father over, how can they let only the second sister do so? Dongling, you go too. Say that I am inviting the Lord's father over to the prefecture as the guest. Please let the Lord's father come. Third young miss. Pei Xiang was bewildered. What play was the third young miss playing at this time? If she took the initiative to invite the Lord's father over, isn't she bringing a Buddha back? That Lord's father was always on the second young miss's side. If the strength of an 8-star summoner was really not to be provoked, Pei Xiang wasn't Huang Beiyu's trusted aide, so she obviously didn't know what she was thinking. But Dong Ling had understood it already. She answered and walked out the door. Pei Xiang was jealous and envy in her heart. She was much smarter than Dong Ling. When can she be the third young miss's trusted aide? When the third young miss takes control of the prefecture, she can be the first maid. Third young miss, is there any other matter you would like for this maid to do? When you go back, look after concubine Qin, and it's good to find out where she had secretly hid all her money. When Pei Xiang heard this, she hesitated momentarily. Third young miss, today I have helped you. Concubine Qin probably can't accept me anymore. How about Pei Xiang? Huang Beiyu raised her eyes, looking at her. If you have done a good job on this, it's the best information I can use against concubine Qin. If you have made such a great accomplishment, then in the future, all the matters within the prefecture of Princess Zhang, I will give them all to you to manage. By that time, you are probably the first female housekeeper of Nanny country. Pei Xiang was ecstatic in her heart. She forgot all about being afraid and hesitant. Within the Nanny country, the prefecture of Princess Zhang held a lot of statuses. If she became the housekeeper of the prefecture of Princess Zhang, then when she goes out, her position is not any worse than the young misses. Yes, this maid will go and complete the task given by the third young miss. She stared at Pei Xiang's silhouette and coldly smiled. Human desire is such a frightful thing. For desire, they could even forget about their lives. Xiao Yun called for someone to call for the Lord's father. This news was spread out, and all the maids/servants in the prefecture were quiet. They all quietly waited for the Lord's father's arrival. When the time comes, there will definitely be a great show. Huang Beiyu was resting leisurely by herself, so she took out 100 refinement scroll to examine the different ways of detoxifying. As long as it worked in the slightest bit, she will try it. Although 3 days was short, no matter what, she will consider for Zhan Ye's life. She didn't like owing other people. Who dared to provoke me? 3. Meanwhile at Baishui courtyard, grandfather said that he can't come. Why? Came Xiao Yun's anxious voice. Xianai answered. It's the Lord's father who said that he isn't feeling well. He needs to rest in the prefecture, and said that he doesn't want to question about the matters within the prefecture of Princess Zhang. He wants the Lord and the second young miss to find a solution themselves. Nonsense. Xiao Yun clapped against the table, standing up. How would grandfather say something like this? It must be you. This girl who hadn't explained everything clearly. Xianai hurriedly kneeled on the ground. Second young miss, this maid is innocent. Although this maid is clumsy with words, This maid is still able to say a couple of sentences. This was the Lord's father's original words. This maid reported this back to the second young miss, without missing a single word. Second young miss, please investigate this. Xiao Yun clenched her teeth, deeply sighing. Then she slowly sat down. In her mouth, she mumbled, "It doesn't make sense, ah. How come grandfather wouldn't come?" Concubine Shui walked out from the room and lowered her voice. "Yunair, your father is sleeping right now. What are you making a loud racket about?" Xiao Yun pursed her lips. "Grandfather said that he's not coming. How come the grandfather isn't coming? He's an old man, so he must be busy. You think that everyone is like you?" "Yunair, what happened today?" Concubine Qin had suffered more. "How about let them go torment each other while we sit in the mountains and watch the fight?" Indeed, sitting in the mountains and watching the fight was much easier. However, what she was more concerned with was why the grandfather isn't coming. Today, within the Lingyang College, the grandfather let her go find Huang Beiyu. At that time, the grandfather had told her in a serious tone that if this Huang Beiyu was able to listen and let him use her as he wished, then he will keep her. If she didn't listen to him, then he will definitely not show mercy. Now that Huang Beiyu was that arrogant, how could the grandfather keep enduring this? Normally, grandfather had deep foresight and rigorous schemes. This time, there is probably some reason behind it. Xiao Yun secretly thought about it when suddenly a maid from outside came in, reporting, "Lady, young miss, the servant outside came reporting that the Lord's father is coming." Grandfather is coming. Xiao Yun suddenly stood up. She was ecstatic. She knew that grandfather will definitely go against Huang Beiyu. How could he possibly not come? She harshly glared at Xianai. "You, this girl is probably being lazy. Look at how I am going to teach you a lesson tonight. Go, let's go greet grandfather." Xiao and I held a crying face on, feeling as though she was wronged within her heart. She really did bring the words over, ah. Plus, she did follow the Lord's father's order, then came back to relay what he had exclaimed. The Lord's father did say he wasn't going to come. How come he is coming at this time now? When the concubine Shui heard that the Lord's father was going to come, she wanted to call Xiao Yuancheng up from inside the room, but looking at Xiani's face, her eyebrows were slightly scrunched. "Inair, are you sure you brought the words over and the Lord's father said that he wasn't coming?" Report to the lady. This maid for sure had brought the words over. The Lord's father indeed did say he wasn't going to come, ah. The eyelid of Xiani's eyes was brimmed with tears. The second young Mrs. methods were usually harsh. She had no idea how she was going to teach her a lesson tonight. Just by thinking about it, she was beginning to shiver all over her body. "Lady, you need to bring justice to this maid, ah. This maid really wasn't being lazy and didn't lie." Concubine Shui held onto the handrail of the seat, standing. She scrunched her eyebrows, thinking for a while. This Xianai, from childhood, she was the one training her. She was a diligent and attentive, honest person, never lying. Then what happened with the Lord's father today? He didn't need to play a joke on a maid. How come he said he wasn't coming, but then end up coming? In her heart, there was a faint feeling of something bad happening. She hurriedly ordered towards Xianai. "Quickly go in and wake the Lord up. Tell him that the Lord's father is here." "Who dared to provoke me for?" As she finished her words, she rushed out to chase after Xiao Yun. Living for so many years, after all, she wasn't like Xiao Yun. This 16 years old and that innocent. Some things, you can't look just on the surface. Xiao Qi Yuan was carried over by a sedan chair. His body was covered by the thick fox fur coat, bundled tightly. He had a mink fur hat on, covering the white hair. Besides the 4 servants carrying the sedan chair, Xiao Qi Yuan had brought along a couple of extraordinary people. 2 men and 1 woman, looking at the prefecture of Princess Zhang in alarm before daring to walk in. "Grandfather!" Xiao Yun had already stepped out, welcoming him. She was delighted and crisply calling for him. "I thought you aren't going to come. I thought that you don't adore Yunair anymore." Xiao Qi Yuan walked off from the sedan chair. He swept his eyes across Xiao Yun, revealing a sense of warning. Xiao Yun inquired out of confusion. "Grandfather, What are you looking at? Where does Princess Beiyu live? Xiao Qiyuan didn't pay attention to her, immediately asking. Xiao Yun felt joy in her heart. As expected, grandfather was coming to stir up troubles for Huang Beiyu. However, if they were the ones coming to find her, doesn't that make it seem like they have no faces? She should let grandfather go to the front hall first and sip some tea while she orders for people to tie Huang Beiyu out. Grandfather, we have prepared your favorite tea in the front hall. How about you first go dash? Her words weren't even finished when Xiao Qiyuan turned impatient. He casually grabbed a maid over. Lead the way. The maid was frightened. In front of her was an 8-star summoner. How did she dare to resist this? She hurriedly led the way to Lu Yungu where Huang Beiyu lived. Grandfather? Xiao Yun held a face of confusion. Grandfather didn't need to be that urgent, right? Yun heir. Concubine Xue, who had run out, grabbed onto Xiao Yun's hand. A look of uneasiness. Mother, what is the matter? If your body isn't feeling well, then go back to rest. I will go see how grandfather is going to teach Huang Beiyu a lesson. Concubine Xue glared at her. In her heart, she sighed. After all, she was still a kid. No matter how smart she was, during times of importance, she would still make stupid mistakes. Stupid girl. Did you not hear how your grandfather addressed that girl? Concubine Xue hurriedly exclaimed, as though afraid that Xiao Yun will run away after not hearing her words. Xiao Yun was stunned. She recalled. Call Bei suddenly. That lovable and good-looking face turned white. How come it's like this? It's impossible. Before, I must have heard wrong. Xiao Yun mumbled. The body, on the other hand, turned freezing cold already from top to bottom. Yun heir, let's better not easily make a move. Even your grandfather had also dashed at this time. Concubine Xue had felt the real terror. She thought back to today in the garden, where there was a servant's corpse hanging on the mountains. Suddenly, she felt as though her hair had stood up. Xiao Yun choked with emotions. Suddenly, tears fell out of the eyelids. She started screaming, I don't want this. I don't want this. Mother. Even until death, I won't believe this. That slutty girl. How dare she? Speak with a lower voice. Concubine Xue covered her mouth and turned around to look at the surrounding people. Thankfully, at this time, a lot of people knew that the Lord's father was about to arrive and was on his way to Huang Beiyu's Lu Yungu. They thought that there was going to be a show to watch, so they all headed towards the direction of Lu Yungu. Xiao Yun woo a couple times before she sniffled and exclaimed with her red and swollen eyes, I don't understand. How come even grandfather is like this? Concubine Xue thought about it in detail. That Huang Beiyu in the past has been deemed as a useless thing. She had let anyone bullied her. Who dared to provoke me? 5. However, lately, she seemed to have changed into another person. The last time when she killed Xueming on the arena, I was already suspicious. No matter how lucky that girl was, there was no way she could be that lucky. Mother's meaning is dash. Xiao Yun wiped her tears, too shocked to the point she was unable to process the words. Concubine Xue continued to explain. Today, she had also won against the prefecture of the government ministers Lin Wan-yi and Lin Zicheng, the two masters. Right now, inferring her strength, she probably is at the rank of a golden warrior already. In such a short period of time, her strength was able to rapidly improve. There must be some encounters or some masters giving her directions. The words, in Xiao Yun's ears, felt extremely ear-piercing. This whole life, she had tried her best and didn't even have some miracle encounters, or even a master giving her directions. How come Huang Beiyu had met this? Could it be that this whole life, she can't be better than Huang Beiyu? She would be stepped under her feet? Mother! Xiao Yun suddenly lowered her voice. She harshly exclaimed, no matter how powerful she is, she can't live any longer. That medicine, how about we increase the dosage? Kill her in one shot and rid ourselves of a problem in the future. This matter, this mother naturally has it planned out. You don't need to worry about it. An icy light flashed through Concubine Xue's eyes. Mother, Xiao Yun declared touchingly. Concubine Xue touched her face. Yun heir, This mother's hope is all on you now. Nothing must happen to you. Xiao Yun nodded her head, determinedly. Don't worry, mother. I will definitely try my best. Concubine Shui, the second sister, what are you guys still here doing? I heard that the Lord's father is here to go teach Huang Beiyu a lesson. Xiao Ling's noisy voice rang. Concubine Shui and Xiao Yun looked at each other. This idiot. Elder sister, go first. I will come in a while. Xiao Yun turned around to stare at Xiao Ling. She looked at the expression on her face as though happy she was in a difficult situation. She couldn't help to sympathize with her. Then I will go now. Xiao Ling held onto the hem of her dress. She brought her maid along, hurriedly going to Lu Yun Gu. Yun Air, let's go and look as well. Concubine Shui held onto Xiao Yun's hand, the two following them. Within Lu Yun Gu, Dong Ling had walked into the courtyard before Xiao Qi Yuan. She watched as Huang Beiyu just changed into a pale red dress with butterflies and flowers embroidered on it. On the outside, it was covered with a sable coat. She brushed her hair into a composed crossed bun. Dong Ling walked up, smiling. Young miss is very smart. This maid had only brushed your hair a couple times before, and you have learned the ways. This is harder to learn than refining pills. It's been torturing me. She lightly held onto the golden dangling ornament. Huang Beiyu smiled. Did that old thing come yet? Does he dare not to come? Dong Ling covered her small mouth, smiling. She thought back to when she came to Family Xiao, and the moment Xiao Qi Yuan heard that Princess Beiyu had ordered someone over, she wanted to laugh over the frightened expression. Huang Beiyu raised her eyebrows. Of course, that old thing was like this. The fright that the honorable spirit had given him, he probably won't be able to forget about it his whole life. The gap in strengths was that huge, so even if he shrunk into a turtle, he won't be able to hide. If he still hid his powerful strength, then maybe he could hold a rougher tone, but if he didn't, then he could only obediently let him be bullied by her. Once she thought up to here, Huang Beiyu couldn't help to admire the honorable spirit. Most likely, from when he had made a move to Xiao Qi Yuan to when he let him escape, he had thought of this already. Who dared to provoke me? 6. Letting Xiao Qi Yuan escape alive, rather than killing him. This will give Family Xiao a bigger shock. Princess Beiyu. This old man had brought some gifts over to pay a visit. Outside, an old but clear and loud voice rang. Huang Beiyu faintly curled up the corner of her lips, saying to Dong Ling, "Let the Lord's father in." Yes. Dong Ling went out, standing by the door. With a crisp voice, "Lord's father, please come in." Princess had prepared some snacks and tea waiting. Xiao Qi Yuan lifted his head to look around the room. The curtains were closed so nothing could be seen. How did he dare to go in? What if Huang Beiyu had set up a trap, then he will die inside for no reason. Although they were related by blood, all these years he hadn't viewed Huang Beiyu as his granddaughter. Huang Beiyu naturally hadn't viewed him as her grandfather either. Today, within the Seven Towers forest, Huang Beiyu had the intentions of murdering him. The reasons why he came today, on one hand, he was afraid that he didn't give faces to Huang Beiyu, he will anger the master. On the other hand, he also wanted to become close to Princess Beiyu and please her so that she can compliment him in front of the master in order for him to let him go. He thought of making his move through Huang Beiyu because Huang Beiyu's personality had inherited from Princess Xiang. Since childhood, she was gentle and kind. It's just that Huang Beiyu's personality was a little on the weaker side. He thought that no matter what, blood is thicker than water. After all, Huang Beiyu would still consider this fact, right? Xiao Qi Yuan raised his head to look at Dong Ling. Young Miss Dong Ling, this old man's body isn't well. If I go into the room, it will probably taint the princess's room. It's better for me to stand outside the room and speak. The Lord's father's face is huge. Whatever you said is what you said. This maid will go in and ask for the princess out. Dong Ling turned around, walking and smiling. The words that she said led Xiao Qi Yuan to start sweating. His original intention was to ask for Huang Beiyu to come out, and there was nothing bad with sitting within the garden, drinking tea and chatting. But now that Dong Ling had exclaimed in this way, it felt as though he was taking advantage of others based on his seniority. It made it seem like he didn't want to go in, and instead wanted Huang Beiyu to come out. This girl isn't an easy character, ah. Momentarily, Huang Beiyu came out, with Dong Ling's escort. The lily-white hands slightly held onto the hem of the dress. On her face, it hung a faint smile. She had an elegant manner and born from the nobility. It's rare that the Lord's father could do me the honor of coming. Beiyu didn't go out to welcome you. I am really lacking in manners, ah. Huang Beiyu bent her knees, making a salutation where a young miss would do towards a senior when seeing them. Xiao Qiyuan didn't dare to accept her salutation. He hurriedly moved out of the way. He hugged his fist, bending his waist and saluting. What is the princess saying? It's this old man who should salute to the princess. Huang Beiyu lifted her hand. Lord's father is a senior. Quickly get up. Beiyu doesn't deserve this. Xiao Qiyuan wiped his sweat. He stood up and the three masters in the back hurriedly came over, bring up gifts. There was 3 embroidered boxes. Each one of the embroidered boxes was opened. The first embroidered box held the complete secret book of flame beheading. In the second embroidered box, there was a sparkling and translucent pill. In the third embroidered box, there was a black dagger which could peel metal off as though the mud. This is just a meager gift. Hope the princess can kindly accept this. Xiao Qiyuan carefully observed Huang Beiyu's face when she saw the precious treasures. These couple of things could be considered as amazing treasures. Each of them can't be bought with money. This Huang Beiyu had only transformed into a powerful person recently. Otherwise, in the past, she wouldn't have allowed family Zhao's people to continuously bully her. Since she had turned powerful recently, she probably hasn't seen that many treasures before. When she had seen these couple of things, she will probably be delighted. Who dared to provoke me? 7. This old fox, Xiao Qiyuan, isn't just picking up expensive gifts to gift to her for nothing. He was giving her rare items as gifts in order to move her. However, Huang Beiyu just lightly swept her eyes across the gifts. There wasn't any surprise or joy on her face. She only smiled elegantly and said, "Many thanks, Lord." Dong Ling, put the gifts away. Dong Ling went and brought the boxes into the house to put them away. Then, she brought out some tea and placed it on the stone table in the yard. Please have a seat, Lord. Huang Beiyu raised her hand and walked over to take a seat first. Xiao Qiyuan walked over and sat down. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed as he thought to himself. It seems that her master has even rarer treasures. Otherwise, how could this little girl, Huang Beiyu, be so calm? Huang Beiyu pulled back her sleeves and personally poured a cup of tea for Xiao Qiyuan. She raised her head as her gaze swept across the 3 experts standing behind Xiao Qiyuan. Although these people were dressed in the attire of ordinary people, she could feel from their aura that their strength should be comparable to Xiao Qiyuan. This old fox has really come prepared. What was he afraid of? Is he afraid that she would make a move against him and the Xiao family? He really thinks highly of himself. If she kills him in Princess Zhang's residence, she would only tarnish Princess Zhang's reputation of kindness. Why don't you all sit down for a cup of tea? Huang Beiyu smiled lightly as she set up the teacups and filled each of the teacups with tea. Those people looked at each other. The pretty female expert said, "Princess, you are too kind. Our statuses are low. How could we possibly drink tea together with the princess?" Huang Beiyu ignored her. She had already picked up a cup of tea and handed it to the female expert saying, "It's just a cup of tea." The female expert was hesitating whether she should accept it or not. If she did, she must drink it. However, if there was anything odd inside the tea, this esteemed guest, could it be that you aren't even willing to give our princess a little face? Dong Ling asked with a smile on her face. Xiao Yu, how can you act so rude in front of the princess? Xiao Qiyuan frowned as he reprimanded the female expert in a serious tone. The female expert called Xiao Yu hesitated for a moment before extending her hands. "Many thanks, princess." Her hand took the teacup, but she couldn't bring it back. The cup seemed to be deeply embedded in solid rock. Xiao Yu's heart was slightly moved. This Princess Beiyu's hand strength is great. Was she trying to test her in order to test the strength of the Xiao family? According to Xiao Qiyuan, this Huang Beiyu's strength was extraordinary, and she has the backing of an expert. But their Xiao family can't just abandon their pride in front of her. Xiao Yu also secretly exerted strength into her hands. Her level has already reached that of a golden warrior. If Huang Beiyu's level is the same as hers, then she wouldn't lose too much face today. However, just as she exerted her strength, an extremely overbearing and scorching hot energy was suddenly transmitted from the teacup into her meridians. That energy seems to have a conscience of its own as it drilled into the deepest part of her internal organs. Xiao Yu was incomparably terrified. She screamed as she immediately released her hold of the teacup. The teacup fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. There wasn't even a drop of water inside. It had already evaporated. By this, one could imagine how tyrannical and fierce the scorching energy that drilled into Xiao Yu's body was. The two experts behind Xiao Qi Yuan quickly supported Xiao Yu. They both raised their heads and glared at Huang Beiyu with resentment. Was this a show of strength to warn the Xiao family? This situation had also shocked Xiao Qi Yuan. After his fit of anger, he quickly reacted. Xiao Yu is at the Gold Warrior level. If it was that easy for Huang Beiyu to make her suffer a loss, wouldn't that mean? Who dared to provoke me? 8. His heart had sunk right then. Xiao Qi Yuan immediately stood up, yelling towards Xiao Yu. You don't have eyes, ah. The princess served tea to you, and you're that careless. Quickly apologized to the princess. Xiao Yu pressed onto the arm, which was in extreme pain. She knew the consequences. Xiao Qi Yuan was finding a way of the situation for her, not letting the situation become bigger. Even if she was the one who would suffer from this, she will accept this. I have been careless. It's a good thing that I haven't injured the princess. Please punish me, princess. It's no big deal. Noble guest, you don't need to blame yourself. Huang Beiyu faintly declared. Shun then picked up another teacup, delivering it to her. Well, noble guest, have some tea. Xiao Yu's hand was still trembling. At this time, she saw that Huang Beiyu had delivered another cup of tea over. In her heart, she was shaking. She looked towards Xiao Qi Yuan, and he slightly nodded his head. Then, Xiao Yu went to pick up the tea. This time, they weren't being hard on her. She picked the tea over and drank. Xiao Yu forced a smile on. Princess's tea is some great tea. Thanks, princess. The other two people stared at Xiao Yu's situation and didn't even wait for Huang Beiyu to personally deliver it over. They walked over, picking up the teacup, drinking it all in one sip. Thanks, princess. The family Zhao's people all knew what's best for them. Huang Beiyu faintly smiled. At this time, outside the yard came Xiao Ling's voice. Grandfather, this girl is very bad. You better not show some mercy. She still hadn't fixed this loud and boisterous, no-brain nature. Huang Beiyu raised her head to look at Xiao Qi Yuan. The Lord's father came this time to teach someone a lesson? How could it be? This girl doesn't know her manners, letting the princess see a joke. Xiao Qi Yuan hurriedly explained. Xiao Ling's surname was Xiao, so she was still family Zhao's people. If Xiao Ling lost her face, then naturally, she would be losing him, Xiao Qi Yuan's face. There are so many people in the family Xiao. This type of useless person without talent has no value. He gave a look towards the two men, and the two people immediately walked out. They blocked Xiao Ling, who was hurrying to come over. You guys, what are you guys doing? Xiao Ling exclaimed loudly, unable to differentiate between the good and bad. Before, she had heard the sound of cups smashing outside. In her heart, she thought that Huang Beiyu would be taught a harsh lesson. Therefore, she rushed over to witness this. One of the men suddenly raised his hand over and clutched Xiao Yu's throat. He coldly stated, Princess Beiyu is here. Stop being presumptuous. Xiao Ling widened her eyes. She gurgled a couple times in her throat. She was lifted up by someone clutching onto her throat. Her hands and legs kicked and flung at each other randomly. Her face was slowly turning green. Concubine Shui and Xiao Yun, who had followed behind, came inside and saw this. They were all shocked, and Xiao Yun immediately stepped back. The man lifting Xiao Yu's throat up was family Zhao's very powerful master. He was Xiao Wei. He was strong but was part of family Xiao. He would make a move towards Xiaoling. Although she normally disliked Xiaoling, Xiaoling was still part of family Xiao. Because Huang Beiyu caused family Xiao to suffer, she was very unhappy. Brother Xiaowei, even if the elder sister had made a huge mistake, she is still part of family Xiao. Please show some mercy. Xiaowei looked at Xiao Yun. He and Xiao Yun got along pretty well. However, he couldn't listen to Xiao Yun right now. He was waiting for Huang Beiyu to say something. Huang Beiyu leisurely sipped half a cup of tea before raising her head up. It seemed as though she had just seen that Xiao Ling's throat was clutched by Xiao Wei. She shockingly exclaimed, "What did the elder sister do wrong that the noble guest is that angry?" Xiao Qiyuan held a serious face on, his voice filled with authority. "Our family Zhao's family education is extremely strict. Although you guys don't live in the main house, you guys still need to follow the rules. Who dared to provoke me? 9. In this world, there is the way between the rule and his ministers. There is a difference between seniors and juniors. Did your father not teach you guys this before?" Once he finished, he turned around to say to Huang Beiyu, "Family Zhao's family education isn't strict, letting Princess witness a joke? Where? There is nothing to say in regards to the Lord's father's personality. From the past, the mother often complimented you. I see that a couple of brothers and sisters have lost their manners outside. Most likely, it is due to the fact that the Lord's father wasn't there to instruct them. I see. How about this? The Lord's father should move to the prefecture of Princess Zhang to live. For one, this can let Beiyu fulfill her filial duties some more, and second, can instruct a couple of sisters and brothers. How does the Lord's father think about this?" Once Xiao Qiyuan heard this, cold sweat immediately appeared on his back. How is possible for him to move to the prefecture of Princess Zhang to live? Doesn't that mean living completely under Huang Beiyu's eyes? Princess's beautiful thoughts. This old man will thank you. However, this old man is now too old and is unable to look after the kids. However, this old man believes that Princess Beiyu has rather Princess Shang's demeanor. The people that Princess Zhang had taught, after all, are different. They are composed and impressive, letting this old man admire very much. How about letting Princess look after these kids? Once Xiao Yun heard the words, her face turned pale. She hurriedly exclaimed, "Grandfather, how could you dash, presumptuous?" Xiao Qiyuan yelled, "Princess Bei, you didn't even speak yet. Is there a place for you to speak?" Xiao Yun closed her mouth, feeling like she was wronged. The tears were on the verge of falling out of the eyelids. She was angry and unwillingly bit at the bottom lips. Huang Beiyu faintly stared at Xiao Yun and them. She slowly declared, "Since the Lord's father had said this, Beiyu is still anxious. The sisters and brothers have bright personalities. Beiyu is still young. How am I able to look after them?" Xiao Qiyuan immediately responded, "Princess, don't hesitate to look after them. If they don't listen to you, Princess just needs to send someone to tell me." A faint smile flashed through Huang Beiyu's eyes. She looked towards Xiao Yun, smiling. Since the Lord's father had said this, then Beiyu will just follow your request. In Xiao Qiyuan's heart, he finally let out a sigh of relief. He waved his hand to let Xiao Yun and the others leave. He glanced at the maids outside the yard, who also left before he spoke to Huang Beiyu in a low voice. "Princess, I had offended you today. It is unclear about that Master Hia. He has a strange personality. What he disliked the most is when people spout nonsense. It's because of the Lord's father had committed his greatest taboo, so you were punished. In the future, as long as you be careful, you should be fine. He doesn't easily come out anyway." Yes, yes. Thank you, Princess Beiyu, for instructing." Xiao Qiyuan wiped off the cold sweat off his forehead. He then whispered, "Not sure what that master's name is." Huang Beiyu raised her clear and bright eyes. There was some faint light. He doesn't like it when other people get to the bottom of something. Xiao Qiyuan's heart tightened. He hurriedly explained, "This old man understands. Hopefully, Princess can compliment me in front of him. In the past, this old man failed to recognize something important. From now on, I won't ever do that. Lord's father, Although the two of us aren't close, after all, we are still related by blood. How could I not save you from death?" Huang Beiyu grinned. "Thank you, princess. Thank you, princess." Xiao Qiyuan immediately stooped down, bowing with hands held in front. The worrisome and bitter face on his face finally slightly dulled. Huang Beiyu used her hand to prop against her forehead. Dong Ling immediately announced, "Lord's father, princess's body isn't too good. Today, she is probably tired. Lord's father, please understand." "Who dared to provoke me, Tin? Princess, rest soon. This old man will take his leave now." Xiao Qiyuan wanted to leave a long time ago. It's just that without Huang Beiyu's words, he was hesitating. Now that he heard the words, he naturally left immediately. He just walked out from Lu Yungu when he saw Xiao Yuancheng who was hurrying over. As soon as Xiao Qiyuan saw this son who didn't try hard enough, anger in his heart was building up. If it weren't for this stupid son who didn't try hard enough back then, wanting to climb up so he decided to marry some Princess Zhang, then he wouldn't give birth to Huang Beiyu, this evil creature. Now, this led him to unable to live in peace. "Father." Xiao Yuancheng hurried over. "That girl did you dash pa?" His words weren't finished when Xiao Qiyuan raised his hand to give him a harsh slap. "Stupid thing that doesn't have eyes. You don't even look at where you are living right now? You don't know to be cautious of the way you're speaking." Xiao Yuancheng was slapped to the point he was a little confused about what's going on. Helplessly, he turned around to look at Xiao Yu, who knew the Lord's father's thoughts well usually. Xiao Yu hugged her arm in pain. With her face pale white, "Cousin, that Princess Beiyu is not to be provoked. Even we needed to look at her face in order to do something. You, this brain, how come you can't be smarter?" Xiao Yuancheng was stunned. What? Even his father needed to look at that girl's face to do something? How is this possible? That girl is just a warrior, not even a summoner. How come his father, such a powerful figure, would be afraid of him? The moment Xiao Yu saw his face, she knew what he was thinking, coldly stating, "Do you know who Princess Beiyu's master is?" "This, I don't know either. I don't even know when did she become so powerful." Don't know. What do you know?" Xiao Qiyuan shouted, not daring to do so with a loud volume. He was afraid Huang Beiyu would hear. Xiao Yuan explained, "Cousin, Princess Beiyu's master is very powerful. I see that on the entire Cardi mainland, only very few dared to provoke." Xiao Yuancheng's face changed, stuttering, "That powerful?" Xiao Yu stared at his expression. In her heart, she was in disdain. Since childhood, he hadn't tried hard enough. Now that he was old, he still didn't use much of his brain. Humph. In the future when he suffered, don't go begging for them. Xiao Yu humphed. "I see that besides Guang Yaodian and Shou Luocheng, there isn't many who dared to provoke the masters in that rank. Cousin, you need to be careful. Our family Xiao, from now on, will never go against Princess Beiyu. If you don't do what's best, then we will separate ourselves from you." "Father, what you're saying is that I need to look at that girl's face before doing something from now on?" Xiao Yuancheng was dissatisfied in his heart. Xiao Qiyuan peered at him coldly. "Then what else do you want to do?" For a while, Xiao Yuancheng had no idea either. Before, he had secretly arranged people to make a move towards Huang Beiyu. However, he hadn't gotten the time to do so when something happened to Xiao Zhongqi. The prefecture of Ongwagong had fixed their attention on them, so the couple of masters that he had, he wasn't able to send them out. Therefore, until now, he still didn't make a move. However, based on the situation now, he needed to make a decision. He didn't want to go through the days where he was pressured and pressed down upon in the prefecture, like how he was when Princess Zhang was still alive. "Father's meaning, I understand." Xiao Yuancheng respectfully replied, "Father, go back and rest sooner. The matters of the prefecture, you don't need to worry about it." "Hopefully, I really don't need to worry about it." Xiao Qiyuan didn't look at him, bringing his people and leaving. Xiao Yuancheng looked at Lu Yungu. He thought back to Xiao Yu's words, and he didn't dare to go in himself. The master of the prefecture won in his heart. He made a plan as to how to go against Huang Beiyu. He will go the whole way. Lu Yungu, young miss, who knew that even the Lord's father was scared to that point. Dong Ling smiled, covering her mouth. Huang Beiyu slightly squinted her eyes. He's not scared of me. It's the person behind me. Dong Ling's smile slowly vanished. That master is that powerful? I don't care if he's powerful or not. It's just that with him being the support behind my back and my shield, I don't need to worry about too much when doing something. Huang Beiyu held onto the teacup, coldly lifting the corner of her lips up. Xiao Qi Yuan already said it. If I don't teach the family Zhao's people a lesson, then wouldn't I disappoint him? Dong Ling revealed a grin. Dong Ling had been waiting for this day for a long time. Huang Beiyu stood up, placing her hand in Dong Ling's to hold. She slowly exclaimed, "Let's go. Let's go to the front hall to see father and the concubines." They walked out of Lu Yungu, and the maids who crossed the road, when seeing them, looked as though they had seen a ghost. They revealed a terrified look and all moved to one side, standing. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Before someone had seen Lord's father's attitude towards her. Even Lord's father, who is an 8-star summoner, had been respectful to her. He addressed her as Princess Beiyu. Therefore, how would the servants dare to be presumptuous? The news had traveled from one person's mouth to 10 other people. Quickly, it had spread within the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Everyone knew that the Lord's father had ordered for Princess Beiyu to look after the people of family Xiao. With the Lord's father's public support, this prefecture of Princess Zhang, from now on, Princess Beiyu would be the master. These maids all knew how to look at someone's face. They are best at being flexible and taking advantage of the situation. Based on today's situation, they didn't even care about concubine Qin and Shui anymore. Who do they count as? Even if it's the Lord, he originally was the emperor's son-in-law who lived in the wife's house. He's not the actual master of the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Those who had bullied Huang Beiyu before were all frightened for themselves. Their hair stood up straight as though it was the end of the world. Those pairs of eyes only dared to quietly raise up to take a quick look before immediately lowering it down again. When they walked to the garden, Huang Beiyu suddenly stopped. Dong Ling called for a maid who was by the fake mountains, saying, "Sister Beiyu, sorry to put you to trouble, but can you please deliver some words to concubine Qin, asking for her to come to the front hall to drink some tea? If it's convenient, go and call for concubine Shui and the lord over as well." The maid called Beiyu didn't even dare to raise her head to look at Dong Ling. She stood trembling and panicking. When she heard Dong Ling's words, she immediately nodded her head. Yes, yes. This maid will immediately go. This place by the fake mountains was where Huang Beiyu had killed someone with a whip. The people were originally already petrified in their hearts. Now that Huang Beiyu was personally here, it gave them a different feeling. Huang Beiyu looked towards the remains of the blood stains on the fake mountains. Her eyebrows were scrunched. How come the blood isn't cleared? What is the point of leaving the blood? Do you guys all like to see blood? Princess, please show mercy. This servant will clean it right now. It will be done cleaning quickly. A servant kneeled down. In his hands, he held brushes, buckets, and such. Before, indeed, he held the order to clean the blood from here. Princess doesn't like to see blood. Sorry to trouble you. Dong Ling smiled. Yes, yes. That servant kowtowed as though he was about to commit suicide. A part of his forehead was already red from bruising up. The master of the prefecture, too, when he raised his head, he saw that Huang Beiyu had walked away. Then, he fell on the ground on his butt. The feet and hands were trembling. Too scary, too scary. Although she looked to be around a 12-year-old girl, the clothes she wore made her look composed and stylish. She was elegant and outstanding. Her temperament also calm as though she was Princess Zhang. But there were still places that were different. On Huang Beiyu's body, there is a solemn murderous spirit. In her every moment, it was revealed as though she was naturally walking out from the Azura. It's just a faint look, and this led people to feel numb the whole body. This type of person, How could they think she was a useless person before? They thought she was a sick person who could be bullied however they wanted to? They really are blind, In the front hall, the moment Huang Beiyu sat down, the maids hurried to place the warm tea and snacks down. The hand in which they held the plate trembled with fear. Huang Beiyu used the back of her hand to support a side of her face. She slightly drooped her eyes down, and with the other hand, she picked up the teacup. Dong Ling hurriedly raised her hand over, in a small voice. "Young miss, this tea there won't be a problem." Before, she took specialized training with different types of poisons, even neurotoxins. She was very sensitive to different types of poisons. If there was a problem with the tea, she would have detected it already. Plus, after she was punished by the punishment flame, she was basically immune to all sorts of poisons. She slowly sipped half a cup of tea when concubine Shui came over, bringing Xiao Zhongqin and Xiao Yun. Today, she was soaked in the lotus pond for half a day, so concubine Qin's face was pale white. Right now, she had cleaned off her body, but it was still obvious of her dejected look after being scared. She held onto Xiao Zhongqi's hand, and the cold sweat dripped down her face. She was lacking in spirit, so it seemed as though she was sick. Huang Beiyu lowered her eyes, blowing at the bubbles in the tea. She pretended as though she didn't see, letting concubine Qin stand there for a while in her sick manner. Xiao Zhongqi's angry face became more and more visible. Slowly, he was unable to calm down. Opening his mouth, "Third sister, why did you order for people to call us over for?" Huang Beiyu then raised her head, smiling. "As it turned out, elder brother concubine Qin are here. How come you guys didn't say anything? Quickly sit." Concubine Qin looked as though your body isn't that well. What happened? Xiao Zhongqi coldly humphed. He helped concubine Qin sit down on the chair. This Huang Beiyu knew how to act. All these years, he was fooled by her. Humph. His mother was harmed by her to this point. She was not even embarrassed to ask what happened. Huang Beiyu turned her head around to look at Xiao Zhongqi's face. She faintly smiled. Elder brother's mood doesn't seem to be that good, ah? Xiao Zhongqi was about to reply when concubine Qin secretly pulled at the sleeves of his shirt. Concubine Qin smiled. "What is the third young miss saying? It's just that my body isn't that great and Chier is just worried." "Oh, dash." Huang Beiyu purposefully dragged the letter out. She smiled with unknown intentions. "Elder brother, you are very obedient, ah." Concubine Qin's heart was pumping rapidly due to her She hurriedly inquired, "What is the matter for the third young miss to call us over for?" The experience today by the lotus pond, concubine Qin was unable to forget about this her whole life. She was mentally afraid of Huang Beiyu's methods plus, when Xiao Zhongqi exclaimed that she had heavily injured the prefecture of the government ministers Lin Zicheng, she was even more petrified. Originally, she had gotten only a little cold. It would be all good when she goes back home to sleep and drink some warm ginger soup. However, when she was sleeping, she started to remember all the things she had done to Huang Beiyu in the past. The master of the prefecture, 3. She dreamed that she came back for revenge and also killed her, hanging her on the fake mountains. After she wakened up from the dream, the entire body collapsed. Now, as long as there is a slight movement, it was easy for her to lose her head out of fear. In the past, she was never someone who got scared easily. But this time, it was obvious that she was very terrified. Huang Beiyu stared at her frightful look and faintly smiled. "Actually, there isn't really a matter. It's just that in the past, my body isn't that well, plus I am also very young, so all the things in the prefecture, I had to trouble concubine Shui and Qin to manage it. I feel very apologetic, so today, I especially found concubine Shui and Qin to come together to thank you, guys." Concubine Qin's originally pale white face, after hearing the words, turned even paler. She forced a smile on, "The third young miss is saying some harsh words. These are all things that the Lord had ordered. I was just doing my best." The two hands, under the sleeves, tightly entangled each other. A mouthful of blood was in her throat, and even if she wanted to vomit, She wasn't able to. This day finally came. She knew that when Huang Beiyu grew up, she would ask about family matters. But who knew that this girl who was only half grown up had already started to intervene with the matters? All these years of building an enterprise, would she need to give this away? What the Lord's father had made clear, father is worrying too much about. Huang Beiyu drank a cup of tea and raised her head up. Right then, she saw as Xiao Yuancheng and concubine Shui walking in. Xiao Yun and Xiao Zhonglei were behind too. There was also a couple of young concubines, bring their young children, and those who hadn't given birth to any too. The last person who followed, coming in, was Xiao Ling's mother, concubine Fong. This concubine Fong wore simple clothes, and on an average year, she was a vegetarian. She stood aloof from worldly affairs, and normally didn't come out either. At the Chinese New Year or other festivities, she just occasionally came out to make an appearance then went back. It was heard that her body wasn't that well, and her personality was quite gentle and quiet. It was unclear how she gave birth to Xiao Ling, that type of daughter. One time, Huang Beiyu was bullied and she hid by concubine Fong's Cui Zhu Yuan. Concubine Fong had given her some foods to eat and even protected her a couple times. Remembering this kindness, when she handled Xiao Ling, she would also be less strict on her. The moment Xiao Yuancheng walked into the door, he saw that Huang Beiyu sat on the master's seat. His face was a little unhappy. Huang Beiyu opened her mouth first. Father is here. Quickly come sit. All the concubines, please take a seat too. Brothers and sisters, take a seat too. Concubine Shui stared at concubine Qin. She watched her expression, and in her heart, she was pondering. Could it be that Huang Beiyu was starting to intervene with the family matters? Everyone all got into their seats. The maids brought the tea up, then Huang Beiyu slowly exclaimed, Before, I had said this to concubine Qin. These couple of years, father and the concubines have been hard at work, managing the family matters. Now that father is turning old and has a group of daughters and sons, it is time for you to live in ease and comfort with the concubines. Her words were not finished when Xiao Yuancheng was restless. Beiyu, you're still young and you want to monopolize the authority? Huang Beiyu dropped the teacup down and blinked her eyes. She looked to be innocent and naive, not mad at all. She grinned, inquiring, What does father mean by this statement? Xiao Yuancheng retorted, All the matters in the prefecture, all the years, it's always been you and the concubines managing after it. Even if the power should be let go, you should follow the order of the seniority and let your brothers and sisters take over. Follow the order of the seniority? Huang Beiyu's gaze landed on the young masters and young misses in the hall and swept her gaze through each one, smiling. Should I dare to ask the father that of the brothers and sisters, who else is born from the same mother as I am? Who is the first daughter of the first lady within the prefecture? The master of the prefecture, 4. Anger appeared on the faces of Xiao Zhongqi, Xiao Yun, and the others. Xiao Yuancheng's face turned ugly as he said angrily, Our residence only has the distinction of between the seniors and juniors. How can there be any difference between Di and Shu, one birth? A cold light flashed in Huang Beiyu's eyes, but she wasn't angered at all. She only used her finger to slowly stroke the golden cup. This momentary silence caused Xiao Yuancheng, who was filled with anger, to feel increasingly uncertain in his heart as he waited for Huang Beiyu to refute him. What does she mean by not speaking? Does it mean that she agrees with him, or what? This girl is truly lacking in manners the more she grows up. Playing with psychological tactics, she is an expert on it. She was silent for a while. Who in the hall wasn't nervous like Xiao Yuancheng as they waited for her to speak? However, the more they waited, the more they could see her increasingly cold and calm expression. Her pink lips were slightly pursed, and her expression was languid. It was unknown whether she was angry or was scheming something bad. Just when everyone was silent, concubine Shui suddenly said, What do you mean, third miss? Say something. Her voice was not loud, and just as she spoke, Huang Beiyu's fingers moved. The glazed gold teacup suddenly fell from the table, shattering into pieces as it hit the floor. This action gave everyone a fright. Huang Beiyu suddenly stood up. The calm expression on her face disappeared in an instant. Her expression became a bit severe as she extended her slender finger towards concubine Shui and said, "Dongling, slap her?" "Yes," Dongling answered and walked over in large strides. Before Xiao Yun, who was standing next to concubine Shui, could react, Dongling had already slapped concubine Shui fiercely in the face. It was even more ruthless than the last time when concubine Shui hit her. One slap to the face already made blood trickle from the corner of concubine Shui's mouth. She was stupefied. "Damned girl, are tired of living?" Xiao Yun immediately reacted and raised her hand. Essence Qi had already gathered in the palm of her hand. If this palm strikes Dongling, Dongling would definitely lose her life. "Are you rebelling?" Huang Beiyu simply swept the teapot and the flower pots to the ground, shattering it into pieces. A sharp light flashed past her eyes. Xiao Yun's heart jumped as she immediately retracted her raised hand. But after, she thought about how she was so useless to just retract her hand. She asked, "Huang Beiyu, what do you mean by that? What mistake did my mother commit that you actually ordered a servant girl to hit her?" Instead of getting angry, Huang Beiyu laughed. "All right, I see that this residence really doesn't put a distinction in status. Father's indulgence is great. Which concubine in the capital would dare to yell at the daughter?" Not to mention that concubine Shui is still just a concubine right now. Even if you help her become the legal wife, this is Princess Shang's residence. This residence hasn't become the Xiao residence. I, Huang Beiyu, am still alive. Or could it be that you all wish to overturn the heaven? Xiao Yun glared at her and said, "Even if you are a noble princess, your father is still here. If you knew anything about filial piety, would you still be so rude to your father?" Good. She wants to push her down with the feelings of a father and daughter. What is filial piety? Don't be ridiculous. Is Xiao Yuancheng even worthy of it? Second sister still remembers that I'm a princess. Do you remember what my surname is? From ancient times until now, it was first the ruler and his subjects. Then it was father and son. Don't you know anything about the 3 principles and 5 virtues, too? Xiao Yun was stunned. She braced herself and said, "This is at home, not the court." Second sister's meaning is, at home, you can have no respect for the monarch? You can disregard the emperor and his subjects? Do you know how heavy this crime is if this is spread around? Second sister, the one who doesn't understand filial piety is you. Do you want to implicate father and kill him? At 1. D. in Shu. In imperial China, officials would have one main wife and multiple concubines. Sons and daughters born from the main wife are called D, which means that they are the legitimate sons and daughters of that official. While sons and daughters born from a concubine are called Shu, they have significantly less right/power than those who are born from the main wife. 2. 3 principles and 5 virtues. The 3 rules: ruler guides subject, father guides son, and husband guides wife. And 5 constant virtues of Confucianism: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and fidelity. The master of the prefecture, 5. Concubine Shui hurriedly pulled Xiao Yun. This big of a crime. If it was pointed at their heads, they wouldn't be able to endure the consequences. What they suffered today, they could only hold it in. Third young miss, don't be mad. It is me who was too reckless, saying inappropriate words. The third young miss said the right thing. I should slap myself. Half the side of concubine Shui's face was still swollen. She looked towards Xiao Yuancheng, her eyes filled with grievances. The eyelids were slightly red and swollen. Huang Beiyu smiled. Since the concubine admits that she is wrong, it's not good if I punish too harshly. Just slap yourself 3 times and it will be fine. Dongling had already slapped once, so the other 2. Xianai will do so. On the surface, she was purposefully letting her go as she is making Xianai slap her. She definitely won't slap too harshly. But letting a maid slap her own master, that would be a deep insult. Concubine Shui bit on the bottom of her lips, and that Xianai immediately kneeled on the ground. This maid doesn't dare to? Useless thing. What is the point for the prefecture to take care of you then? You won't even listen to the master's words. Huang Beiyu's face turned cold. Pull her off and hit her 10 times with the plank. The servants who stood outside looked at each other. They knew that today wasn't like the past anymore. This Princess Beiyu, within the prefecture today, was setting up her prestige. Now that she also had the support of the Lord's father, who dared to go against her orders, they immediately went in to pull Xianai out to beat her. From the yard, there came the sound of tragic screaming. The maids in the front hall all held pale white faces. They knew that Princess Beiyu was a figure who would not change her decisions at all. Huang Beiyu faintly glanced at concubine Shui. Xia Chun, you come?
Yes.
With Xianai, this lesson learned from the previous mistake, Xiao Chun didn't dare to hesitate at all. She walked up, exclaiming to concubine Shui, Concubine, this maid is receiving the orders to do so. Please don't blame it on me. As she finished, she slapped the 2 sides of her faces with 2 hands. The 2 slaps fell on her face, not being vague at all. Xiao Yun tightly held onto her fist. Concubine Shui clenched her teeth. After she was slapped, she tugged at her swelled face, standing up to salute to Huang Beiyu. Thanks, third young miss, for showing some mercy. As long as the concubine remembers her lesson, Huang Beiyu faintly announced, not looking at her anymore. She looked towards Xiao Yuancheng on the other hand. Father, Beiyu is still young and doesn't know her manners. There are some things that aren't resolved in the best way they can be. I will be troubling you to remind me sometimes. Remind her? Xiao Yuancheng snorted. What happened before? Was there room for him to remind her? This girl has a fluent mouth, and even the black could be said as white. Not only that, there was no space for them to even go against it. The poison of the mouth. Xiao Yuancheng had seen this for the first time in his whole life. His woman, his daughter, and son had all been wronged, yet there was nothing he could do about it. He could only glare at her. Don't mention how unhappy he was in his heart. Humph, your matter. You look to see how to resolve it. However, the concubines are still your seniors. You are the junior. You should know the appropriate behaviors and not let outsiders say that there is no order within the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Yes, Beiyu will definitely take this to heart. Huang Beiyu nodded her head modestly. Then she changed the subject all of a sudden. The matter that Beiyu had brought up, how did the father think about it? Xiao Yuancheng humphed loudly from his nose. This matter, let's talk about it when you're older. Right now, it's not the best time. Huang Beiyu slowly sat down, playing with the tassels on the hem of her dress. Father is scared that I won't be able to manage after the prefecture of Princess Zhang? You're still young, so naturally there will be places where you didn't consider about. Father's worry isn't without reason. I am young and don't have experiences, but in the future, one day, the prefecture of Princess Zhang will be managed by me. Therefore, some things, what I need to know, I should know about it earlier. I see that today, we should let housekeeper Zhou bring the account book over so I can first view it and then slowly learn about it in the future. The master of the prefecture 6. This, father, you don't need to worry about this. I will definitely try my best to learn about this and don't make a tantrum out of it. Huang Beiyu interrupted Xiao Yuancheng's words. That look was as though a sensible, well-mannered, obedient daughter. Xiao Yuancheng had no words to say. In his heart, he was thinking about quickly moving his properties that he had accumulated many years away to someplace else. This girl had just first started to look at the account book. What can she see from this? Housekeeper Zhou wasn't someone to be reckoned with either. However, Xiao Yuancheng's calculations about Huang Beiyu were inaccurate. If she was someone to hold information against someone else from the account book, then she would be too weak. Huang Beiyu already let Dongling go out and deliver some words, letting the housekeeper Zhou bring over all the account books there were in the prefecture. That housekeeper Zhou was a smart person. He secretly glanced at concubine Shui and Qin's tragic looks and Xiao Yuancheng's helplessness before letting someone grab them. Normally, When he made the accounts, he was very detailed. After all, he was betting that a 12-year-old girl wouldn't be able to see anything from this. The account books weren't here yet, but Huang Beiyu quietly said another couple sentences to Dongling. Dongling smiled, walking out. No one knew what she wanted to do, and no one dared to follow out. Quickly, housekeeper Zhou had brought the account books over. He personally brought it over, giving it to Huang Beiyu. They're a tall stack of account books, letting people have a headache when they had seen it. Huang Beiyu casually flipped over one book, flipping over a couple of pages. Although she hadn't seen the ancient times account books, after all her wisdom was still the rank of a genius. In modern times, for tasks, she had dipped into economics. Therefore, this account book, she looked at it for a couple of seconds and knew what was going on. This housekeeper Zhou was worthy of being a careful person. On the account book, he had made it so not a single drop of water could leak out. Not even a spider's thread could be seen from this. No wonder concubine Qin had bought him, making him her trusted aide. Hee. On one hand, she drank tea, and on the other hand, she slowly looked through the account book. In the front hall, there were many pairs of eyes staring at her, waiting for her to say something. However, she said nothing, as though she was really concentrated in looking through the account book. Concubine Qin had been soaked in the lotus pond the whole day, then get frightened. Now, she was unable to sit down anymore. Her body was rocking and her face was pale white. Xiao Zhongqi watched. Third sister, if you're going to look through the account books, then look through them. We will go back first. Huang Beiyu raised her head to stare at him, lazily exclaiming, Elder brother, today we are discussing family matters. In concubine Qin's hands, she had taken care of many account books as well. She cannot be absent. Xiao Zhongqi was about to open his mouth when suddenly, Dong Ling was outside yelling, Just place it here. Everyone was stunned, not sure what had happened. They all turned their heads around to watch, only to see Dong Ling ordering people to carry a couple of huge boxes into the yard. There were a couple of tins of boxes, all locked with locks. There was no clue as to what was inside the boxes. Housekeeper Zhou turned his head around to look, and suddenly his face changed. He quickly walked out. What are you guys doing? This is my possession. How come you guys are carrying this out? Dong Ling lifted her head, grinning. We naturally know these are housekeeper Zhou's possessions. If there was nothing that couldn't be seen, is it not okay to open it for everyone to see? No. Housekeeper Zhou's face was red, angry, but also afraid. These are my personal items. Princess cannot casually just look through my personal items, right? Personal items? Dong Ling raised her eyebrows. She glanced at the tins of boxes. Housekeeper Zhou's personal items, don't you think it's rather too much? Forgive me for saying something not pleasing to the ears, but I heard that within our prefecture's storage, it had always been lacking resources. I have suspicions that someone is stuffing their pockets of the resources. If Housekeeper Zhou is open and candid, then take the lead and show everyone what things you have. The master of the prefecture 7. You are speaking nonsense. I didn't stuff my pockets with the resources. How come you guys are searching through my things? Housekeeper Zhou raised his neck, not letting them search through his things no matter what. Dong Ling stated, whether if there is or not, we will find out once we take a look. Housekeeper Zhou, later on, Princess wants you to take people to search the other rooms. If you are not able to convince the masses, who will let you search them later on? Housekeeper Zhou's face was pale white. The cold sweat dripped down, and he secretly took a look at Concubine Qin as well as Xiao Yuancheng. Concubine Qin's face was pale white to its extremes. Xiao Yuancheng was also infuriated, turning around to Huang Beiyu. How come you want to search the rooms all of a sudden? This matter. This girl had never mentioned it in the past. It was sudden that they were now unexpected. Huang Beiyu laughed in her heart. Of course, she needed to do this suddenly. Otherwise, she will notify them earlier on so that they can be prepared and hide all the items. This matter, I had also only thought about it recently. Before, I just remembered, so I let Dong Ling to go do it. Huang Beiyu raised her head, smiling as though nothing happened. There was not a look as though she had plotted this before. Housekeeper Zhou's personality, I believe him. He is someone that my mother had left, making him stay. He absolutely wouldn't be stuffing his pockets and colluding with outsiders to harm the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Xiao Yuancheng was silent. The body was faintly trembling. The anger was about to explode. Since you believe him, then there is no need to search. Housekeeper Zhou is an old man of the prefecture. Now that you do this, wouldn't this harm everyone's feelings? That is also true, But now that so many boxes are carried out, if we don't search it, everyone's heart will probably not be convinced. After she finished, Huang Beiyu raised her eyes. The cold gaze faintly swept from the front hall to the yard to all the servants and maids' bodies. Everyone who interacted with her cold and icy glance all moved back. They harshly gulped their saliva. Does everyone think there should be the need to search or no? She picked up the teacup and slowly opened her mouth, inquiring. Those maids and servants all looked at each other. In the end, they all surrendered under Huang Beiyu's powerful, imposing manner, all nodding their heads. Search. Search. After searching the housekeeper, we will then be convinced. Right? We definitely need to search it. Xiao Yuancheng really wanted to clap his hand on the table, dragging these servants who had moved to the other side and slaughtering them. But once he saw this type of situation, in Xiao Yuancheng's heart, it was also in chaos. All the things in the boxes were private treasures from the prefecture of Princess Zhang. He saw that they were pretty good, so he took them all out. One part of it, he left them down to keep for himself. Another part of it, he told housekeeper Zhou to look after them. These 2 days, he was going to go around to form relationships with others, gifting the bosses gifts in order to steady his position in the military. Conveniently, his position as the emperor's son-in-law should be raised as well. All these years, could it be that his whole life, he could only be the emperor's son-in-law? He had already let housekeeper Zhou make movements on the account books. Many gold coins were also transferred out. Little by little, it was all stored in Lanmu card, ready to be sent out. Now, all these things were locked in the boxes. If they were to search the boxes, wouldn't it be revealing that he had been making housekeeper Zhou making fake account books? It really was God's plan supersede our own. He should have placed the items in the space ring. But in the past, he had been thinking about gifting them to people, so he had taken them all out. Plus, how could he have possibly thought that Huang Beiyu would suddenly change as a person? However, it wasn't that easy for Huang Beiyu to search it either. The keys to the boxes, he had been personally keeping them. This type of heavy locks and metal boxes were especially used by noble families to hide items. It was not easily opened. The master of the prefecture, 8. Once he thought up to here, Xiao Yuancheng was slightly more comforted. He silently made a look towards housekeeper Zhou. The housekeeper Zhou understood, exclaiming, Princess, it's not that this servant doesn't let you search it, but that the key to this box, I had lost it a couple of days ago. Such a heavy box, today, we probably won't be able to open it. How about you search it next time? After all, this box won't be able to run away anyway. Unable to open this, Huang Beiyu slowly played with the leaves within the teacup. She suddenly smiled and took out a black dagger from her space ring. This is the icy dagger that the Lord's father had just gifted me. I heard that it peels metal off as though it was mud. I'm not sure if I am able to use this to open the lock. Dongling, you go try this.
Yes.
Dongling walked up to pick up the dagger. Xiao Yuancheng quickly stood up. No. Huang Beiyu raised her head to ask, why not? Even if that lock is damaged, I will repay a better one to housekeeper Zhou. Xiao Yuancheng's face was turning ugly, and the two hands tightly formed fists. The bones were cracking. Huang Beiyu stared at his expression and coldly laughed. Today, she was only punishing an individual to set an example for others. She definitely will search that housekeeper Zhou and take the evidence that he was stuffing his pockets with resources. Next, she will have the excuse to reorganize the financial affairs within the prefecture without restraint. That housekeeper Zhou today, She must teach him a lesson. She didn't care if Xiao Yuancheng would let her or not. Huang Bei, you wanted to do the things. You have the ability to stop me. The Lord's father had already said so today, for me to tidy up the family manners. There must be someone to take the lead. Housekeeper Zhou, all these years, you had contributed to the prefecture a lot and am old now. Don't blame me for making it feel as though you were wronged. It's all those who resort to a negative style of manner and stuff their pockets who were traitors, causing mischief. When this princess catches them, I will harshly peel their skins off and help you vent your anger. It was still good when housekeeper Zhou hadn't listened to this, but when he heard this, goosebumps appeared all over his body. Peel off their skins. There was no one here who dared to take Huang Bei use as a joke. Today, the harsh methods in which she killed the servant, everyone had witnessed this. Who dared to be suspicious that she was just joking? Housekeeper Zhou hurriedly cast a look towards Xiao Yuancheng, begging for help. This Huang Bei, you was the real daughter of the Lord. As long as the Lord had made an order, so what if she was the princess? Could it be that she will refuse her own father? Xiao Yuancheng also had this decision in mind, but he knew that Huang Bei, you was no the normal type of daughter. This girl, with one mouth, was able to make things seem more exaggerated and such. He needed to think about what to say. Looks like even father had agreed to this. Dong Ling, open the box. Xiao Yuancheng was not even given time to think about what to say when Huang Bei, you had already commanded Dong Ling moved quickly, bypassing housekeeper Zhou, and the dagger had landed. The lock heavily landed on the ground, and when housekeeper Zhou saw this, he pounced on it. The entire body pressed down against the box. Housekeeper Zhou, what are you doing? In this box, could it be that there are some things that we shouldn't be seeing? Dong Ling turned her head around to inquire. Housekeeper Zhou shook his head continuously. No, there is nothing. Xiao Yuancheng yelled. Enough. What is there to search? Beiyu, you had done enough disturbance today. Go back to your room and rest. Disturbance? Huang Beiyu's face slowly turned cold. She dropped the teacup, standing up. What father had said made my heart feel chilling. Today, the Lord's father had made clear to me to tidy up the family manners. I am young, so I am afraid I won't be able to convince the masses, so I wanted to start from housekeeper Zhou in order to set an example. However, the father is saying that I am making a disturbance? Beiyu had placed a lot of thoughts into this. Isn't that all for the prefecture of Princess Zhang? But it's going over the lines by searching through the rooms. Xiao Yuancheng shouted. That box had been opened. If the items inside were seen by everyone, then he would. The master of the prefecture, 9. Going over the lines? Well, the father can go out and make some inquiries. Which family in the capital has not searched the rooms before? I was just punishing a little to prevent a bigger mistake. Compared to other families, this is still called going over the lines? Huang Beiyu directly walked out. She walked to the door and raised her fingers, saying, What are you standing here for? Quickly help the housekeeper Zhou up. A couple of stunned servants, as soon as they heard Huang Beiyu's orders, they subconsciously followed the commands. They walked over and pulled housekeeper Zhou up, who was holding tightly onto the boxes as though an octopus. Dong Ling opened the cover of the box. At that moment, golden bright lights assaulted people's faces. In there was actually a whole box of golden treasures. There were many different kinds of delicate items, and on the top, it was embedded with different colored gems. That type of light nearly blinded one's eyes. The housekeeper, all of a sudden, was like a balloon that had air leaking out. He fell limp on the ground. Dong Ling consecutively opened the other boxes. Each time she opened one, the surrounding people will all let out a cold gasp. In these boxes, it contained all valuable golden and silver wares. There were also antiques, paintings, jade artifacts, coral, pearls, etc. They were a dazzling sight to the eyes, leading it to be a feast for the eyes. Huang Beiyu stared at the housekeeper Zhou, who seemed to be flattened. In her heart, she was cheering for herself for catching him. She just wanted to open her mouth to let people beat him up with sticks, and force him to say who was the person that made him hide all these items is. He was just a small housekeeper. Even if he had a lot of courage, he definitely would not dare to steal that many items from the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Does he take those brilliant concubines to be blind people? She hadn't opened her mouth when Xiao Yuancheng had already done so, screeched at him. What a great servant for lying to your superiors and hiding it from your kind. You dared to secretly store all these valuables. Do you know what crime you're committing right now? Xiao Yuancheng walked out, kicking the housekeeper Zhou over. If there was a sword in his hand, he probably would have killed him with a sword already. Housekeeper Zhou answered, scaredly. This person understands that he is wrong. Understands that he is wrong. These things, this person didn't secretly store them. I was trying to place them and then carry them into the storage room. If it was supposed to be carried into the storage room, then how come you wouldn't let us search it before? Dong Ling wasn't that easy to be lied to. She immediately inquired. Housekeeper Zhou responded. It's because this person is afraid that this person will be accused by the princess. Nonsense. The princess can distinguish the right from the wrong. How could she accuse wrongly of you? I see that you are probably just lying to us. Dong Ling yelled, raising her hand. At this time, she was not afraid of that Xiao Yuancheng. Lord, secretly storing these valuables is a serious crime. Based on this maid's views, he should be sent to Tingwei Si for them to investigate this. Tingwei Si, if he was sent to Tingwei Si, then what good would that be? That Tingwei Geng was famous for being upright and plain-spoken. If he were to investigate this, then the whole prefecture of Princess Zhang will be under investigation. Then at that time, no one would be able to escape. Family shames must not be spread abroad. If this matter were to be revealed, there will be many people watching a joke. Why send him to Tingwei Si? Xiao Yuancheng lowly hollered. Father is saying the right thing. Huang Beiyu looked at the boxes filled with treasures and her face was icy cold. Housekeeper Zhou, my mother, when she was still alive, she treated you not badly. What you had done today really opened Lin's to a new world. Princess, show some mercy. Housekeeper Zhou kneeled on the ground. He was shaking and kept on asking for mercy. Huang Beiyu responded, if I were to send you to Tingwei Si, based on your crimes, not only will you die, but your wives and children will all be on the book of servants. In the master's house, stealing, the faces will be marked with the stamp of a servant. This whole life, you won't have a day where you will be free. Housekeeper Zhou kept on trembling, and the teeth were chattering. He secretly raised his head towards Xiao Yuancheng and concubine Qin. These precious treasures, he won't be able to obtain any of them. However, he was doing this for the lord and concubine Qin. If something were to happen to him, they probably won't let him just take on the crime names himself, right? The master of the prefecture, Tin, however, Huang Beiyu changed the word, faintly exclaiming, Housekeeper Zhou had been in the prefecture of Princess Zhang for many years. You have done a lot of labor. Although you had made a mistake and was confused, however, your crime isn't serious to the point where you need to die. You also don't need to be sent to Tingwei Si. Housekeeper Zhou let out a sigh. Xiao Yuancheng also let out a long sigh of relief, secretly feeling lucky. Only concubine Shui slightly scrunched her eyebrows. How would this girl easily just let this go? If she didn't use this chance to go all out, then what was the point of going through all that work from before? As she thought about this, she heard Huang Beiyu slowly explaining. Today, we had searched so many items from the housekeeper Zhou's room. Most likely, from before, there was even more. After I check the account books and match it with the items within the storage room, all the things missing, as long as housekeeper Zhou returns them all, then it will be fine. Housekeeper Zhou rapidly lifted his head. Princess, all these things, no matter whether you hid them or sold them, since housekeeper has the courage to steal these items, then most likely all these years, you've gained a lot of profit from this. You need to think of ways to make up for this. Huang Beiyu glanced at him, coldly announcing this. Housekeeper Zhou was flabbergasted. All these years, all the things missing from the prefecture of Princess Zhang. She is making him carry the blame for all and compensating for this? Then wouldn't he become the foolish one? He was just helping someone do their things, and although he had gotten many rewards all these years, how is it enough compared to these precious treasures? This matter of compensating, even if the lord or concubine Qin does this instead, they might not even be able to compensate for all these years, all the things that they had sold from the prefecture of Princess Zhang. They probably aren't even able to keep track of this. Housekeeper Zhou thought that this matter had already turned into a huge issue, not something a small housekeeper was able to endure. He raised his head to look at Xiao Yuancheng only to see that his face was filled with gloominess and harshness. He looked Pei Yu, who stood by concubine Qin's side, sinisterly. Housekeeper Zhou's heart was chilly. That Pei Yu was his only daughter. By concubine Qin's side, she was a maid who delivered tea and water. Concubine Qin said that she would treat her as though her own daughter. In the future, when it was time for her to marry, she will be married according to the manner of a young lady. His wife had died early on, and he himself was one who wasn't able to give birth. He was depending on this daughter to look after him when he was old. However, what was Xiao Yuancheng's meaning right now? He was going to use Pei Yu to threaten him? As long as he assumed the crimes, later on when discussing compensation, it will naturally come by slowly. Xiao Yuancheng will have to think of ideas for him. Huang Beiyu was such an intelligent person, and no one would be able to win against her when talking about mental tactics. She slightly looked at Xiao Yuancheng and housekeeper Zhou's face and knew right then what ideas they were trying to play at. The corner of her mouth slightly curled up into an angle, and she glanced at Dong Ling. Her eyes floated to Pei Yu by concubine Qin's side. Dong Ling was a smart girl. She knew what was going on. Smiling, Sister Pei Yu, normally, I have been seeing that you are different from the other maids. Whether it was the things you eat or wear, it was not any worse than how a master would be treated. As it turned out, housekeeper Zhou has many side doors. It was no wonder that the outsiders are saying that Pei Yu from the prefecture of Princess Zhang was the real young miss. Pei Yu's face turned pale white. She hurriedly kneeled down, panicking. Concubine, princess, this maid didn't. Every time this maid goes out with the concubine was always the one well-regarded. How could this maid be compared to the concubine? Oh, Dong Ling grinned again. Sister Pei Yu is saying that the concubine is well-regarded? How well-regarded? Concubine Qin kicked Pei Yu over. If you don't know how to speak, then shut up. Saying that out loud, they will be using this against us. Such an idiot. The master of the prefecture, 11, Dongling Gunyang 1. This servant has a stupid mouth. How could you take her words seriously? How can there be empty words in this world? Moreover, concubine's beauty isn't only seen by Pei Yu Jiejie too. This servant has also seen it. Dong Ling smiled as she said, but concubine Qin's maternal family is the prime minister's residence, which is rich and powerful. So it's only natural for them to live a well-off and glorious life. Concubine Qin forced a smile. This little girl's words are full of traps, just like her master. How could she dare to respond? If she responds, she might accidentally fall into her trap. Her maternal family is indeed glorious. The Prime Minister's residence is a big title. It is different from concubine Shui. If they want to investigate later, the investigation would start with concubine Shui first. Seeing the normally arrogant and glorious concubines, young masters, and young misses in the lobby, all of their faces turned pale white, while the unfavored and powerless concubines and young misses started to gloat in delight. They were all waiting to see a good show. Huang Beiyu walked slowly from the door to the corridor. Dong Ling immediately went up to her and supported her hand. The people sitting in the hall didn't know what she was going to do, so they all followed her. After so many years, I originally thought that the family property left behind by my mother would be well managed by the steward, well cared for by my father, and highly valued by the various concubines. Who would have thought that after only 4 years since my mother had left, The residence is already completely overturned. Steward Zhou, the surprise you gave me today isn't small. Huang Beiyu glared at Steward Zhou, who was kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. Princess, please spare my life. I am not greedy. This is real, really. Don't talk nonsense. If you want to fool me again, I will send Peiyu to the border to serve as a military prostitute. Huang Beiyu's crisp shout shocked everyone. Someone come and beat him. Beat him until he speaks the truth. Huang Beiyu loudly commanded. Those servants are new to the residence. Just a moment ago, they were bribed by Dong Ling. So now they naturally listened to Huang Beiyu's command. They took out a thick stick and pressed Steward Zhou to the ground, ruthlessly hitting him with the stick. These new servants did not have much status in the residence and were being suppressed at every turn. Their resentment against Steward Zhou wasn't a one-day or two-day thing. Now, this was a good opportunity to vent it all. Princess, princess, have mercy. This humble one has been wronged. This humble one has been wrongly accused. Princess, this is obtaining confession through torture. Steward Zhou screamed his lungs out. That stick was ruthlessly beating him, and yet he still didn't spit out the truth. Huang Beiyu stood on the steps, looking at him coldly. She suddenly said, "Drag Peiyu out and hit her too. Princess, princess, please spare this servant." Peiyu cried as she knelt down, tightly holding onto the hem of concubine Qin's skirt, not wanting to let go. Right now, it was already hard for concubine Qin to protect herself, so how could she care about this girl? She lifted her leg and kicked her. The two servants came over and dragged Peiyu out. They threw her in the yard and hit her with a stick. "Father, father, save me. It hurts, father. Father." Peiyu has a delicate and tender body. How she withstands such a staunch rod? It only took a few moments for her to start screaming like a pig that is being butchered. Steward Zhou's but had been beaten so badly that it blossomed. He had been enduring it with all his might for his daughter. But now that his daughter was being tortured, he raised his head and finally asked Xiao Yuancheng for help. Xiao Yuancheng's expression was ugly. He couldn't intervene in this matter at all. First, it was because Huang Beiyu's power is unfathomable. The person behind her was someone that even the old master was wary of. He didn't dare to provoke her. Secondly, in Princess Zhang's residence, Princess Beiyu was the true master. 1. Gunyang, girl or young lady. 2. Jiejia, older sister. The master of the prefecture, 12, after all, his surname was Xiao. If Huang Beiyu wanted to be in charge of this, he wouldn't be able to stop this. This housekeeper Zhou in the past, he knew too many things about him. Plus, this matter, he also needed a scapegoat. Might as well let Huang Beiyu beat him to death. A dead person's mouth is the most reliable. At this time, as long as he saved Peiyu, housekeeper Zhou would be willing to die for him. Once he thought up to here, Xiao Yuancheng exclaimed to Huang Beiyu, "Beiyu, the person who made a mistake is her father. It has nothing to do with his daughter. Let Peiyu, that girl, go." When he listened up to this part, housekeeper Zhou understood. Xiao Yuancheng wanted him to become the scapegoat. Letting Huang Beiyu beat him to death would be able to save his daughter, Peiyu's life. Was this exchange worth it or not? Cold light flashed by Huang Beiyu's eyes. She will not grant their wish. Humph, housekeeper Zhou, this crime. He had stolen things from the prefecture of Princess Zhang. Even if he was sent to Tingwei Sea and sentenced the whole family to die, this was still considered a light punishment. Plus, the debt of a father, the daughter will have to compensate for it. This housekeeper Zhou would not plead guilty, so his daughter either will be sent to Tingwei Sea as a military prostitute or throw her out of the prefecture after making her handicapped. No, no. I plead guilty. I plead guilty, ah. Housekeeper Zhou began yelling as though heartbroken. Stop. Princess, please stop. This person will speak the truth, will speak the entire truth. Huang Beiyu slightly raised her hand, and a couple of servants halted. Even the sticks contained bloodstains. Housekeeper Zhou climbed over, hugging his daughter, Pei Yu. The tears fell down the face. As long as the princess promises to keep my daughter safe and for the rest of her life to live by peacefully, I will say everything. Housekeeper Zhou, you are trying to bargain with me? Huang Bei Yu faintly inquired. Housekeeper Zhou, this person doesn't dare to. It's just that this person only has one daughter. Although it is not pitiful for me to die, this matter has nothing to do with Pei Yu. She is innocent. Princess, please investigate thoroughly. Huang Bei Yu nodded her head. Pei Yu is innocent. I naturally know. It's just that the mistakes that you committed involved her in this matter. However, if you are willing to say the truth, from now on, Pei Yu will follow me. In the future, I will find a good person for her to marry and give her a generous dowry. Kindness and prestige are both revealed. Only that way will it convince the masses. Okay. In front of everyone's faces, this person believes the princess's personality. Housekeeper Zhou slowly got up and his trembling hand pointed towards Xiao Yuancheng. These things? It's the Lord who wanted me to secretly store them, taking them out from the prefecture's storage room and replacing it with fake items. For a portion of them, he wanted me to go to the pawn shop and exchange them for gold coins, and another portion of it, he wanted me to gift them to the imperial capital's officials, babbling nonsense. Xiao Yuancheng hollered. Audacious servant! You dared to accuse me. See if I don't kill you today. Xiao Yuancheng raised the palm of his hand and condensed the vitality. It was about to hit the housekeeper Zhou when Huang Bei Yu pulled off a hairpin from her hair, and the hairpin struck him. The strength wasn't that hard, but enough for Xiao Yuancheng to immediately place his hand back. What is father doing? Whether he is accusing you or not, we will find out after investigating later. How come you want to kill him? Other people will think that it's because you are guilty, so you want to kill him so he doesn't say anything else. Huang Bei Yu icily declared. Xiao Yuancheng's face was turning red. He held onto his wrist, which was in pain, harshly stating, "This audacious servant dared to climb on the master's head." Concubine Qin also stood up to add on. Princess Bei Yu, a servant's words, how could you believe it? Are you actually going to be suspicious of your father due to this? Whether suspicious or not, I am only looking at the evidence. Concubine Qin doesn't need to say anything more. I also believe that the Grand Emperor's son-in-law would not dare to such a corrupted thing. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.